like that, we are back with another Unpacked presented to you by the To Be Fair Show and
the G Shit Podcast.
It doesn't matter how you feel.
All right, we got another good one. What is this our first episode of the new year? I think we did one. Was it New Year's Eve, maybe? But nonetheless, back off for 1 week hiatus. Yeah. It is the To Be Fair Show, and we're gonna crack open the season with let's talk about Urkel and Stefan, the hood versus suburban divide. I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways that you can kind of break this down, but nonetheless, do we need to change the way that we view Black identity? Is there a problem with it? Is it not? Is it fair? Is it a good representation? Is it validity when a suburban talk about hood shit? I don't know. The chat team seems at times to not feel so. Sometimes we like to jab at some of our friends here. But it'll lead to a very interesting conversation as we unpack it. But before we go any further, love for this amazing panel that we have here. I believe we have one more pulling up in a second. Introduce themselves. Talk to him, G. You're muted.
Oh, what's good, everybody? It's G, host of the G Shit Podcast, where we focus on family, friends, finances, freedom, and our future. Fuck everything else. Check that out wherever you get your podcast. Just search GSHPOD. Ha.
All right. Y'all see him at the bottom, back from the motherland. We're going to get a recap in a second. But before then, the Charlotte legend. Talk to him, A Black.
Yo, what's up, everybody, man? Happy New Year. I don't know if it's still too late to say that, but good to see everybody. Happy to be here. New energy, new topics. So let's get it.
Yep. And the host of the To Be Fair Show, Johnny P himself. Talk to him.
What up? Welcome back. Glad to be here. Like I say, we got a good one. Like I said, we got a couple more people. I think Trey gonna be here in a little bit, so I'm excited.
We got somebody asking about FBA Trey. Yeah, he said he pulling up.
He said he OT Dub. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one this week. Glad to be back.
All right. Yeah. With that said, we do have a guy. He's been on. I don't know. It seemed like a month-long tour of the continent. What a lot of us would refer to as the motherland. How's your travels been? Where'd you go? Any new things that you learned in your journey?
Yeah, man, it's great. So was
the FBA say true?
Definitely not.
oh, damn.
Definitely not. I mean, it's truth in everything for sure, but overall, nah. So this trip was different. The first part was Tanzania. It was my cousin's 50th birthday. But he not like a typical 50. He young, hip vibe like us. He live in LA. He's in the record industry. So a lot of his friends are like, movers and shakers.
I seen some. Are we allowed to say some of the people you was hanging with?
Yeah.
Like some I've seen a couple David Banner conversations and shit.
Yeah,
like that.
David Banner was there.
Like 22s.
Yeah, all of that, man. So we did that first part was a group trip, which I usually do solo, but the group joint was like all inclusive type. So it was a different vibe for me. But it was nice too. But I was kind of just like let them do their thing. Then I left there. I went to Senegal, way on the western side, and that was more chill vibe. Met a young lady out there. We chilled. Kick it, boom, and then I finish it off. I stay there till Christmas, and I leave for New Year's for Nairobi, and same vibes, chilling. So I guess like the more I go, the more comfortable I get, and able to kind of understand the differences between the different cultures and countries, and stuff starting to really stick out. Like I'm like, oh, you Kenyan, or you from Somalia, just like all the differences are starting to get more pronounced now versus like all these African type shit. It's like I can really start to tell different apart. You Nigerian, like everybody got different ways about them. So kind of the more I'm around it, the more it stick out. So that's what's been new, just being able to kind of.
So let me ask you this: what are some of the takeaways you have from just different parts of Africa? You was kind of hitting on it a little bit. What are some takeaways? Are they really scammers?
Are you afraid to get intimate with them?
No, no,
no fear, huh?
No. What's the fear? I mean,
you're a wild boy.
They say, it's got to be careful over there, man.
Oh, you going crazy?
Be careful over here.
Hey, yeah, I mean, you're right, my brother.
You seen the rates in DC?
Oh, hey, look, you got a point. You got a point.
Nah, but like honestly, though, some of the cleanest women I've ever been around in my life is been African women. Like as far as hygiene and like never had no issues in that department. But it's millions of people, so like you like to find some. It's like it's some exceptions to everything, but yeah, it's the West Africa is more lively, like the people just got a different upbeat energy to them, and East Africa is more laid back and chill. But Senegal is on the west, and they real fashionable. They French colony, so they got that whole Paris connection. They go to school in Paris, come back. They go to learn to cook in Paris, come back. But their fashion there is just like, Senegalese is like cool as hell, like very modern out there, progressive. Like they got everything we got for real.
Yo, do the women in Senegal wear Senegalese twist or nah?
I don't really see them much. I mean, most of them, a lot of them Muslims, so a lot of them keep their hair covered because either they're Muslim, and then also Senegal is a peninsula at the beach. It's always sand flying around, so people keep their hair wrapped up because of that too. It's real sandy out there.
Let me ask you. Well, I got two questions for you. So you said you went. So the first spot was an all inclusive. In Africa. Where was that at? I'm gonna have to look this up.
We did two spots. First was in Arusha, which is kind of more inland. That's there. People go there to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. It's like lush green. And then went to Zanzibar, which is island. It's tropical but hot. It's not super developed out there, but it's like they got some spots like a lot of duck offs and resorts. If you into that like that, I never really been into that before, but I could definitely kind of get used to that all inclusive shit, like sitting on the beach. Yeah. Nigga just bringing you watermelon.
Listen, I did all inclusive in Mexico, and that shit had me sold.
Yeah, I'm spoiled now a little bit.
Yeah. And the important question: does Africa got love for the American blacks?
Yeah, man. Yeah, they do. And like I say, it's millions of people. So you can find an African that got an ignorant point of view. It's like you can find a Black American that got an ignorant point of view of somebody. But overall, it's all love. It's curiosity. Like they want to know. And now with the internet, the social media, like they're not. It's not a big gap no more. Like they are up on shit. Like the same shit, the language, the style. And it's all kind of crossing over right now, but it's all love, man. It's like this: show respect to them, and they respect you too.
What's up? What's the ladies like out there?
The who?
The ladies. What's the ladies like out there? Oh, did I already missed that part?
You would love it, FBA Trey. You would.
Oh, but
you would love it out there, man. The ladies.
I ain't no passport, bro, or nothing, but
it's the land of the plentiful. I'll say that.
All right, a little late, but always on time. Y'all know him, FBA Trey. Talk to him. What's going on?
What's good, man? Just here to do my best to be to advocate for the, FBA topics, whatever, like things like that. So, looking forward to a interesting conversation.
Gotcha. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I thought you was about to say something. All right, so a couple quick hitters. I guess first starting off, today is MLK's birthday. With that said, I don't know. I guess any conversation that y'all like to have around MLK, obviously amazing revolutionary black leader, done amazing things. I'll throw it to y'all. For y'all's.
I'm not about to talk about nobody that cheated on their wife every single chance they got. Like that's all he did. Letting freedom ring, all right.
Are you for real? You for real, hey, bro?
Nah, I'm just fucking with you, Trey.
Yeah, but that was trigger bait right there, boy.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just playing, y'all. Don't put that on the clip.
I feel you, man. It's off code shit. Don't be like funny to me at all, bro. I like to have a sense of humor, but just some things like you don't go to like a Jewish person and joke about like their lineage, or go to some other people joke about their lineage, and he's an icon. So especially on a man's birthday, bro.
Well, I think Jewish people do joke about their lineage with each other.
Joke is a little different. I mean, you gotta have a sense of humor.
Yeah, but I think every group jokes about their lineage and heritage in general. But yeah, again, floor is open. Anybody? If not, we can continue tracking.
Oh, I mean, you gotta show love to
yeah, for real though.
I mean, he's one of the original leaders like that we can look up. I mean, growing up, he was like my favorite icon. Him, Malcolm. You get a little bit older, you start learning about the Panthers. You start learning about the Farrakhan's as you get a little bit older, the nation. But I mean, when you first start, like I mean, he's the foundation of all of this really just open-minded woke shit. I mean, everything we kind of stuck on. He's the foundation. So and he died doing it. So like Trey said, I mean, yeah, he is a martyr. That's why we are talking about him today. It's because of everything he did. So I give it up to him. I'm just one person, but I think what he has done speaks for itself.
Yeah, I'm glad to see. Growing up, I didn't hear much about him, his advocacy, like coming to get our check, and his economic agenda. All we really learned about was, sitting at the table, holding hands, integration, and all of that. But as I got older, I learned more about, and he feared they were integrating us into a burning house, and the burning house is what we would be if we integrated into the dominant society. We weren't undergirded with an economic floor, as he said, the peasants of Europe received when they came over here. So, and also learning more about a lot of the people that, there's a book about the FBI being a part of his assassination, and the family sued. And also with there's some stuff with like some boule folk like Jesse Jackson and all kinds of stuff with people being involved. And then you get into the Quentelyoung where they created rumors to try to undermine him, talking about allegations with him and being unfaithful to his wife or whatever. And then we still hear a lot of those rumors echo today. And I think it's important to take a day and then make sure that we pick up where he left off, at least in message, and get away from where this whole like kumbaya message. And you see a lot of especially with the FBA movement, they talk about him more as a revolutionary than more of like somebody that just wants to integrate. So it's like just want to take time to pay respect to that.
For sure. G.
Yeah, man. Icon of the people. One of the most historical figures in not just Black history, but history of the country in America. Gets credit for spearheading a movement that changed the world's perception of what human rights and civil rights should be. I think like I say, he's an icon, and he's to be, respected for his contributions, not only to the community, but also just from a standpoint of giving people something to strive for. I think, like in terms of speaking truth to power, living by your raps, if you will, and making sure that you're willing to put yourself on the front line for the things you believe in. So got to shout out MLK. Mm-hmm. Every city in every hood got a street named after him. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those names that whether you agree with him, disagree with him, he's just entrenched in the fabric of American society. So you can't help but respect it.
Gotcha. And I guess just kind of moving topics a little bit. We typically source a lot of our clips that we have here from TikTok. They saying TikTok is shutting down in what, like 3 days, 4 days, something like that.
The 19th.
I heard they pushing for one of the senators or Congress people is pushing for an extension.
That's all they're spending that thing.
Mr. Beast was talking about buying it too.
I don't know if Mr. Beast got enough money, but I know Elon has been talking about
he
pushing towards buying
it. He said he was talking about getting a group together. Like I don't think he had the money, but yeah, he said he was talking to some billionaires. So that's
and wait, is this Asian company open to selling this? The Chinese company?
That's a good question.
No, that's
they're not acting like it right now.
It's their shit. If they was gonna sell it, they would have been sold it by now.
And shit, right now they might as well upcharge on it if they was gonna do it.
They gonna keep doing it.
They gonna tax.
But yeah, I guess nonetheless, what was the last big social media platform that's left? Maybe Vine or some shit like that. Are y'all benevolent? Y'all feel away? How do you feel about Elon possibly purchasing the two biggest social media platforms and having his hold on I guess the American discourse? Is it a bunch of different
ways? Is Elon talking about buying TikTok?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
It ain't tricking if you got it.
That got to be against antitrust laws, though. I mean, you can't have a monopoly on social media.
Meta does. They got Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp.
Zuckerberg in bed with the government now, though. So
but that's the thing. But I'm saying, but if it's just those two that got the majority of a market share, I think that sounds like a monopoly. Maybe I don't know. That just sounds dangerous. It sounds like dangerous territory to have just these two people controlling basically everything we see in the narrative of the country. So I think that'd be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Is it a Chinese company?
ByteDance is a Chinese company.
Yeah.
So if he buys it and it's a global company, I guess
they would just sell off the US business. They wouldn't sell off the whole piece. They would just sell their US piece of ByteDance.
Well, he could probably get that for the low though, because otherwise, if that's the only way that they'll have part of this market is to sell it to an American, then it's either that or lose the whole share.
That's the thing. It is a lot of money being made from from the big corporations on down. They monetize across all social media platforms. And a lot of these companies that rely heavily on consumerism, which also heavily relies on younger people, know that TikTok is the platform that you need to be on to reach Gen Z and below versus trying to prioritize your efforts on Instagram, right? So I think a lot of wealthy stakeholders are involved in this enough to where it won't get fleshed out so easily, in my opinion, because they need it to monetize too.
So what's the problem with TikTok? Is it that it's owned by China, or is it that they?
Yeah, I think it's owned, and it's the information that it's pulling.
So they're saying that it's China. The thing about TikTok is when you hit that agreement, the amount of data it pulls from the type of thing you're agreeing to, they say it's unprecedented. But in my opinion, like every app you got, like they got your data as soon as you, everybody's got your data, but they try to act like the rules that TikTok has when you check the box to put it on your phone, they collect all this important data. And what the US is arguing is that this data is one thing when it's being collected by US companies. It's another when it's being collected by an enemy like China, being used to help target our own people, right? Versus it being like a domestic tool.
Shit and
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that's the big importance of it. I mean, I think with the American companies taking our data, that's a lot safer than it going over there because China's already proven that like they don't have IP laws, they don't have a lot of the safeguards that we have in this country, as bad as we are, it's a lot better over here than it is there. And if they get our information, we even see what TikTok does to like people and like how addicting it is. And so who knows what they're gonna come up with next, or how they can use that.
I mean, your data is done. Like,
Yep.
niggas gotta get like the data is just used as a whole fear tactic now. They've been had all your data since fucking AOL drop. Like, so that it's a pride thing. Is China having an army base in your country, but digitally with TikTok, with being able to garner that much data, have that much influence. It's like, nah, we gotta own it, or you can't have it here, type shit. And that's really all it is. Because they could have been sold it, but it's not about selling it because they don't want the money. They want the ownership of their shit. And America's like, nah, you having too much influence over here. And really, it's stupid because the people can just like stop looking at the shit, but and really ruin it all. But that ain't gonna happen. But I don't know. Part of me kind of wants easy. Part of me kind of wants it to end, even if it's temporary, just to kind of give people a reset or a break on something. Because a lot of people are, I don't know if you ever scroll through that shit, a little off on that app, and they need a break from it for real.
I can imagine that's one of the maps that I've decided to stay away from intentionally. For
Tell me why though. I like TikTok more than Instagram algorithm, Facebook algorithm. TikTok at least show me, I think, more relevant content that's not just the ass. Like my thing about the Instagram algorithm and my Facebook algorithm,
if he giving you the ass,
nothing but ass. I can't.
You know what the problem is, right?
I can
you stop
on
that
guesses, but I
stop
can't
on
help
that
it.
ass over and over.
If I scroll, I'm gonna pause and look at the ass, bro. It's right there on the nice iPhone screen. It's clear cut clarity. If an ass pop up on the screen, bro, I'll be like, "What's this?" And so, and then if another one pop up, I'll be like, "Well, what's that?" So I'm gonna peep at the ass, and I will say TikTok does a better job of diversifying my content around all of my interests versus just Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels. They only want to show me ass. They're trying to get niggas.
You got a crazy algorithm, Michael.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: are you still getting that 5'9", 165 on your algorithm?
They started to fade out. But that's the thing. But if you search something right now, they gonna hit you with it like back to back. But after a while, it'll fade out.
Yeah, I pretty much just see the stuff I search for. Like workout videos and food and just, I don't know. I don't be seeing no ass no more for real.
Yeah, I don't be
man. My algorithm crazy, man. It probably got me on a watch list, man.
I can only imagine.
Man, but I don't think that. I think that part of the reason they want to ban TikTok is because they aren't able to control the information that we see. Versus, we saw how they did with Facebook. How anything that went against COVID or anything like that, they could ban it. And they don't have that control when it's owned by a foreign entity, because I think it's more of that, especially when we saw a lot of this momentum to cancel TikTok pick up and gain steam with this whole thing going on with the 48ers and the peninsula between Africa and Asia. You know what I'm saying? With the Palestinians.
About. Yeah,
I ain't had to go into it yet.
Did you see where like Americans, we crazy? Did you see where the other Chinese app just went to the top of the app store, Red Note? It's like
I don't even know what that is.
Maybe I literally just heard about that the first time today.
Like it just happened, but like it sounds like it's an I guess it's like the what's that other one? The alternative to Twitter they got now.
Niggas need to be distracted. That's what this sounds like.
But yeah, like
they said by any means.
Like we're
give me more disinformation. Like non-American source.
Like it's us. Like it's us. Like it's literally our fault. Like we're trying to give China the upper hand. So I mean, even if they ban it, Trey, they're banning TikTok. All a bunch of Americans, these young kids, it's a bunch of Gen Z and leftists, I think, but they're going to this other app which China's gonna do the same thing on that, is take all their information. So if the
But what do
American,
they?
but if
sense-
American people are compliant in it, how are we gonna get mad at China?
But what sensitive data that they have that's a national security threat that they're able to get off of like individuals' phones, like your phone, our phones on the panel, like what sensitive data is there? I guess they can maybe get in the apps and do identity theft or whatever, but that's not a national security threat, is it?
I don't think the argument is like the sensitive from like a standpoint of like PII or HIPAA, like that type of shit. But I think that the thinking is with the power of AI and algorithms, once you collect all this data on one individual, like it's a reason why we get fed certain ads that we was literally thinking about. And then all of a sudden we see the ad. It's because the data and the algorithm is that good to predict what you want in the future, and can then use your desires or your interests to then like try to, you know, propagate and present certain things to make you want to lean one way, lean the other. And when you talk about all this deep fake technology, the AI stuff, nobody knows what's real versus fake. You can do the voiceovers. It's at a point now where it's like, if you get all this data on an individual, you can start strategically feeding them things that cater to their interests, but then like embed your own messaging within. Like that's kind of the fear.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, what's up?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, pretty much is being able to have an enemy to market to you unknowing propaganda.
So it sounds like, I mean, few of us are in tech, so we know that, like, how valuable like data is, especially when it's that specific and you can use it for marketing. So it kind of sounds like the United States doesn't want to keep that monopoly on our data, and they don't want a foreign entity to be able to harvest that data. But it seems more like if you follow the money type of situation more than it is a security threat. And I also still think it is
because that influence is already like,
because they can influence elections.
I'm about to say it's already influenced
things.
different elections. No matter which election that you think that is influenced on the right or the left,
they can incite like those protests and make stuff unruly, like create this loud minority on social media that then creates everybody singing whoa whoa. Like, you know how social media work. It's like now all of a sudden this nigga Jello got the hottest song out. It's like, but that's just the power of social media. Like, we got tricked.
I got you. It's dangerous to have a foreign entity to have that much control over the population.
Yeah.
Y'all
so
fuck with that Jello? Y'all.
Nah, that shit kind of fire. The hook, at least. I ain't gonna hold you.
Yeah.
He need to get a remix. He gotta get somebody.
Yeah, he need Juvie. He need the Hot Boys on a remix. But the hook by itself, I don't know about the song. The hook by itself, I'm
where did that where that voice and that tone even come from with him? Like,
those are the real questions.
Your mom is white. Like, what?
Chino Hills.
Hey, you know he a real one, dog. You know, Jello. You know, he the one who actually put it on the line.
Yeah, he thugging.
Oh damn! I guess he did.
Yeah, he was really out there thugging.
He was stealing for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that nigga got arrested in China. Nigga said, "Take my data, goddamn."
He's like 4 feet above the average height.
Goddamn. All right. So before we hop into the main topic, there is another major story that is going across the country, specifically the West Coast, where there's the fires that are happening inside California. It is now starting to, or it has been for the first time, starting to trickle towards LA, and I think it was in Malibu. It's actually hitting a lot of real estate, and there's some theories out there. There's a lot of conversation around it. I'll just toss it to y'all. What is y'all thoughts on the West Coast wildfires that's happening? The California wildfires. Unfortunate? Is it global warming? Is this conspiracy? I don't know.
Drake did it, man.
It was Drake. He dropped that. He dropped it with the lawsuit.
Oh yeah,
that's hilarious. I don't think I heard nobody say that. That's pretty funny.
Burning shit down.
I mean, I think it's unfortunate, but it's something that, like, there's wildfires every year in California, so it's not nothing new. I think this year it was like a perfect storm of circumstances. It's a little worse, and where it is, I think, puts a different spotlight on it because these are celebrities losing houses. But it's something that happens every year. Like I say, it's unfortunate. Prayers out to those people, but I'm not gonna go conspiracy route yet. I'm gonna just put it on natural causes, and I'm a big weather guy, so it's something that global warming is happening. We're getting worse weather, and unfortunately, we're gonna see worse wildfires. On this side, we getting worse storms, worse tornadoes. It doesn't snow as much as it used to. So I mean, the weather is changing. I think that's what it is.
But like weather don't just start fires out of the blue. You feel me? Like my question would be like, was there a lightning strike somewhere in the dry forest that set off, the initial flames? But like what was the initial spark? Is kind of got me suspicious.
But there's always, like you say, it happens every year, and like I don't think it's not.
And it's like four. It's like 3 or 4 of them, different ones that's inside that. Like,
but usually when it happens, it was like it'll be because it won't be because of it's like it'll be somebody camping and then something happens and then it turns into something crazy and uncontainable. It's like the wind conditions and all that is natural, but like what sparks the fire is like my ultimate question. You feel what I'm saying? Like what causes the spark? I get that the conditions are out of everybody's control and it's like the perfect storm going on, but what was the initial spark? Was it a lighter? Because they're saying that a bunch of this stuff is because of the embers catch a little flare and they start spreading and they land and it's catch over there. So like what was the initial spark from? It's like got me suspicious.
They say
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
I just looked up. They say most time it's a lightning strike, a human made spark, like from a car or cigarettes, or sometimes utility lines. And then they also like if a utility line fall. I think that's what happened in Hawaii back in August. I think that was down like a lot of that came from utility lines, and then they put arson on there as like the last reason. So I mean, it could have been somebody that started it, but
they allegedly got people on film carrying around torches out there too, setting stuff on fire. Allegedly.
Yeah, there was a migrant that got caught with it, and then due to California sanctuary, like the sanctuary city laws, they ended up releasing them. That's a true story. I could send the clip, and that will weigh into the political ramifications because Gavin Newsom, like it seems like a few months ago, seemed like he was hot, as far as his presidential campaign and those hopes, but it seems like he could kiss that goodbye between, what just happened with the reparations where he reneged and called them and told them to pull the bill. And then now the city's on fire and there's a whole bunch of questions about the budgeting and everything like that. And also Karen Bass might get caught up in that too, because she was in Ghana for the inauguration with Umar for the majority of the time while this was going on. So she's on a hot seat right now too. Were you in Ghana, A Black? Or where were you at?
No, I wish. It was lit out there. I was in Senegal, Tanzania, and Kenya. But I didn't make it to Kenya. Ghana is lit in December though.
Did you know that when they get inaugurated, they still have those colonial wigs?
Inaugurated what? You talking about?
Like during the presidential inaugurations, like the colonial wigs with the blonde and it was crazy as hell.
I ain't seen
those. That looking like George Washington on the corner.
Yeah, and I was kind of mad because Umar was talking about we don't need reparations over here because you're talking about the sisters buying weeds and all the other stuff. Meanwhile, he in Ghana getting citizenship, and they got whole colonial wigs on. That seemed a bit hypocritical.
I ain't see that. I gotta see that.
Yeah, I definitely
gotta see it too. It's gotta be hilarious. I gotta see the visual of that one. Is it like the silver white wig too, or is it at least like perm, like black perm? What kind of color is it?
Remember the
George
pimp
Jefferson Washington.
Remember the pimp from Pinky from Friday?
Yeah.
It's like that, but it's like blonde, whitish. looked just like the colonial, like the Quaker
Like
Oats.
George
song.
Washington and all of that, where
That's hilarious.
they do in the Caribbean. I know some of the courthouses that's traditional. I ain't seen that recently, but you know, everybody got their traditions and shit.
Man, that ain't no good tradition, A Black. You ain't about to make no excuse for them having white man wigs on in their country where they're 99% black and they got their own country.
Who's talking a white language right now? What's the difference?
We said what?
We talking a white language right now.
Oh, okay. You talking about?
I thought he said something else.
They talking a white language too.
Cool. But they can also talk Twi and Ga and Wolof and indigenous languages.
Man,
we still talking this white
man.
language.
No.
All right, bro, at least I got my natural hair, bro.
What that mean?
Are you talking about that shit right there, Trey?
Yeah, bro.
It'd be kind of
I
wild.
don't know if you can make no excuses for that, bro. I know I'm speaking English, but at least I ain't wearing that.
Wigs wear pitch. But I don't see it on the whatchamacallit when I look at the inauguration.
But shout out to Burkina Faso. They just kicked France out there, in Mali and Niger. Those are the 3 African countries that I'm the proudest of. They just they keep trying to assassinate him though. But anyway, isn't that messed up, man? He gonna get assassinated by his fellow countrymen when he's trying to do something to lift his own people up, man.
Them ain't fellow countrymen, them CIA plants.
But they got our same skin complexion.
Yeah, the FBA. So.
Yeah. The FBA, okay. You gonna blame FBAs for assassinating leaders and bro, come on.
Who else would hate their own more?
Do you have any?
All right, so fellas, let's
they the perfect niggas to send over there.
Yeah.
So how they gonna blend in? How they gonna blend in? A Black
easily because they still black. They just forget.
So they're gonna look at our FBA forehead and they're gonna not recognize that we don't have the same bloodline.
You go to Ethiopia or Somalia, they is not gonna know you from North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm letting my hairline grow back in. The Dominicans mess me up.
Grow back in, nigga.
Just like the Ethiopian dude.
Nigga right there, boy. Hey, that's the one.
My shit back,
once
man.
you start going this way, nigga, the tide don't come back, bro. It's
just of a mustard
seed, like, boy. He said, "Grow back in." You a wild boy.
He hope.
You gonna have to get a surgery.
This man tried to blame the assassinations on FBAs, bro. That shit crazy.
All right, so fellas, I think that right now is probably a good time to segue ourselves into the lead conversation, I guess you would say. Maybe I'll ask this first. This is kind of a filler question before we get there. Should your opinions validity be based out of where you're from and your experiences?
Say it again.
Should your opinions validity be based out of where you're from and your experiences?
I think more so experiences versus where you from. Like your experiences are gonna shape what you think and how you view the world way more so than where you're from. Where you're from is gonna have a little bit to do with your experiences, but a lot of time you have choices and you have the ability to customize your experience. So I think that's what matters, because there's a lot of people that's from the same block that view the world differently. A lot of people that I grew up with that don't look at the world the same way as me. So I don't think where you from matters as much as like what you go through, what you learn, different, experiences you put yourself in. It matters a lot more on what you look, how you look at the world and like how valid your opinion is.
Gotcha.
It depends on what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I'll toss to G. Again, just the opening statement before we get into the actual question. Should your opinions validity be based out of where you're from and your experiences?
No, I mean, look, I think your opinion is validated because it's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's not a it's not a law. It doesn't impact me. Like opinions are like, personal beliefs. And so to validate that, like really that's just on you. I feel like where it gets murky is where people have opinions about where their opinion misrepresents something factual, right? So it's like I might have an opinion that like my opinion is that, man, it's my opinion is that it's super cold today, right? But then if I say, man, it was super cold today, it was 68 degrees. It's like, what you mean it was cold? It's 68 degrees in January. Like that might be your opinion that it's cold, but it's like it's pretty warm for January. It's not cold. Like that's just not really true. So it's just like, but this is what I'm saying, like, but it's subjective, but it's also abnormally warmer. 60 something degrees is not cold for the time period. You know what I'm saying? That's not really a subjective thing. We got a normal.
Put it up to 80 degrees, just to even
80. All right, 80. But
80
maybe that's
in
not,
January, and a nigga walk out. It's super cold.
Yeah, maybe that's not
I
the best.
imagine that'd be like a better exaggeration to your point.
Like people's opinions, like we can, like all five of us can see the same movie and have 5 different opinions about that movie. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think anybody's opinion about the movie is more valid than the other. But when your opinion is based off of something that isn't true, that's when it's like, well, your opinion isn't even rooted in like what actually took place. So that to me is really the only thing that can like not validate your opinion, is if you're basing it off of something that is just not true.
Gotcha. Hey, Black, I'll repeat the question. Should your opinion's validity be based out of where you're from and your experiences?
I don't think it should be based on where you're from. I think it's going to be shaped because of where you're from. You know, your opinion forms, based on your surroundings and how you grew up. But it's like at the same time, everybody's opinion is not warranted in certain topics or certain things. Just because you from somewhere, you might not know nothing about this other thing that everybody's speaking on. So it's like, just because everybody can have an opinion, it's like you don't have power, a voice in every conversation. Because it's like, all right, you grew up in New York, you might have great opinions on New York, but if you've never been to California before, maybe nobody wants to hear your opinion on California because you ain't even never been to California. Or same thing if you in the medical field, you sick, you want a doctor's opinion. You don't care about the dude work at 7-Eleven and his opinion on your health. So it's like your opinion is weighted based on what you study, where you from, and the knowledge you gain, and then it's valued more based on that. Everybody now just talks about shit, but it's like, who opinion do you value based on their experience in that topic?
Gotcha. Trey, talk to us.
I mean, it depends on what you mean. I think it varies. Like if we're talking about something, that's not so specific, I just get straight to like if you're talking about family business, do you want somebody that's not inside your family weighing in as much as you want the people inside your family to know what they think? You know what I mean? And I think most people would say if they're talking about family business, then the priority should be the views of their family. Like I was listening to this space earlier where if there are other groups that come in to ask information, I think in some situations, the best thing you can do there is give information that either misleads them or it doesn't get to the crux of what you're trying to do, because there's some information that should be kept on the need to know. And I think there's some importance there. But that may not be what you're asking.
Well, not that last part specifically, but I think the first part that you talked about, it sounds like you're talking about like opinions validity should deal somewhat with proximity to the actual issue.
Yeah, like you don't care if you have some stuff going on in the house in your family, you don't care what I got to say. I wouldn't even give you my opinion on that because that's none of my business. You know what I mean? That's an extreme
right.
example.
And which I guess like that paints a different scenario. But I understand what you're saying. But let's say we're going to take it out of you and your family. But let's just say a family. There is a family, and a man just hit a woman, and a person was walking by, and they seen that happen. And of course, objectively, you can look at that and say that that man just hit the woman. Might they deal with it? And might sometime, well, I wouldn't even say that, but a lot of times, you know, I mean, inside issues of domestic violence, people go back. And sometimes there's a space where maybe you check on it, but they're gonna do what they do. So the opinion still end up being valid most to the people that are closest in proximity. But what you observe isn't less false or valid. Domestic violence did happen, but maybe they didn't report it because it was their opinion that it wasn't important enough to report it. Does that make sense?
It kind of does, but that could get messy too because you see people intervene in situations like that all the time where, you know, it's between a man and a woman, and then some bystander intervenes, and then the bystander ends up, you know, taking the hits off of that, or, you know,
or dying or something like that.
Yeah,
and I guess that
they
goes
go back and get together.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that that was still a violent or an assault or dangerous situation. It's your opinion on if you want to, you know, jump in or not. But nonetheless, I think that leads to the next question. Simply put, again, y'all seen the Stephen, you seen John Morant, you seen that intelligent black man with glasses. I don't know his name. You seen Urkel. I'm gonna ask y'all this question to kind of jump off the conversation. We hear inside the chat oftentimes, your opinion don't really matter because of, you know, where you're from. You grew up in the suburbs. You didn't have a real black experience. We can kind of go down the line of different like anecdotes that are thrown back and forth inside different versions and ways. To start it off really broadly, when we start talking about black identity, does quote unquote the hood and quote unquote the burbs shape different versions of black people? If we're talking generally speaking, G, we'll toss to you first.
I say 100%, 100%. Like when you grow up, the reason why I say it is like, let's say you are a black person in the quote unquote suburbs in a more affluent area, that more than likely, not always, but more than likely means you're going to be around less black people, typically in the average experience. Now there are different cases where, like, you know, PG County, Atlanta, you know, some spots where black affluence is pretty normal. But typically speaking, if you are in the suburbs, that means you're a little more affluent, which means you're a little further away from people that look like you. Versus if you are in the average quote unquote hood in a given area and you're black in your city, even in like a white city, somehow the black hood turns into the black hood. That's not the white hood or the Spanish hood. It's like the black hood. So I feel like it definitely shapes different experiences. However, you know, it's like the story of OJ, like, you know, still a nigga, you know, it's like you experience it differently. You might, you know, come to the realization at different points in times. But I do think it does shape a different experience based on your class being black, for sure.
Gotcha. A Black, does growing up in the hood or the suburbs shape different versions of black people?
Yeah. I mean, you go be a product of your environment is still important of what your parents instill in you and, like, you know, what you value. Because, you know, you can grow up in the hood and, you know, with the right parents, you can still stay away from everything, even though it's so much around you. And you could be in the suburbs and, you know, long to be hood, and some of them go harder and overcompensate because they're from the suburbs to be hood or be gangsters. So it's like the environment plays a part, but it also produces a lot of exceptions too. So it just depends on the parents and, you know, what they value and what they instill in those kids, you know.
Gotcha. Johnny, talk to us.
Yeah, nah, A Black, like he went exactly where I was gonna go as far as like your environment's gonna influence who you are, and it makes certain decisions and certain choices, some of them easier, some of them harder. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be a product of your choices and product of your decisions. And whether you in the hood and you make the tough decision to, you know, elevate and look past and expand your horizon, or like A Black said, if you in the suburbs and feel like you got to go back to fit in, go back to the hood and do things that you might, not necessarily need to do just to fit in. So it's always going to be about your choices. The environment's going to influence that, but ultimately, who we are is based on, what we've decided in our decisions.
Trey.
Could you repeat the question? Make sure I stay on topic.
Does the suburbs or the hood shape different versions of black people?
I would say, of course, it does, but at the same time, if you're black in America, like you're in a similar situation in this caste system that we have to deal with. Like Gates got arrested for trying to get into his own home when Obama was in office, and they had the beer summit or something like that. He was in an expensive neighborhood, but they still treated him. He still got the same N-word treatment. And then you see it all the time. Even Obama, when he was in office, he didn't get the respect that you normally see given to a person that's in office. And those are people in prestigious positions. So sometimes I think there is like a resentment from people who come up in the trenches towards people who didn't, where they see the people that came up in the suburbs as if their opinion is less valid. Like, oh, you didn't have it as hard as me, and they kind of like downplay or like undermine or try to take credibility away from the perspective of people that didn't come from the trenches. Like, I even noticed that when I was at USC and I had a bunch of friends from Benedict, and there was this sort of contention between the people
Benedict,
that HBCU,
the HBCU blacks and the PWI blacks.
Respectfully,
Yeah,
Benedict,
it
a different Benedict. That's a different HBCU. Respectfully,
hey, shout out to Benedict though, bro. I love,
You said it's like going to Livingstone.
It's different. I gotta say,
I had a bunch of homies that went to Benedict. Shout out,
shout out to Benedict now. Shout them out now. Shout them out.
Turn up down there. That's love.
yeah, I had homies on both sides. I had a lot of fun with my friends on both sides. It was definitely the type of fun on each side, but I think it's kind of sad because I heard people talking about like in the space they're talking about in the past how there was more of a unison between like the underground movement, you know what I mean? Like people that in the pool halls and all other stuff, and then the people who like the politicians, where there was like a connection with it, like they worked together. And now it seems like there's more of a division that we really should have, like the mob. Like they have their organized crime, but they also have the people that are in positions of power, but they're still Italian. And they're able to work together. And all these other ethnicities, they have like a partnership between the organized criminal situation or people in those other situations, the people that are in higher positions that still look out for them. Especially like then you can get into like the boule, how it seems like they're paid to undermine their like I got mine, now go you get yours, and they don't help the people. So,
and when you say boule, that typically points towards like the stereotypical characterization of a suburban black, correct?
Yeah, like the whole thing with Obama, where if you are well-to-do, then you might look at Obama like more favorably than a person who they're like, dang, I thought Obama was going to do something for the black collective. I'm still in the same spot. Yeah, it looks good for you, but like, what did you do for us?
But have you called Obama a boule black before?
Yeah, but okay. I have that's something that I have a lot of people in my family that are educated, and they will not tolerate any Obama slander. So I gotta keep that to myself. But I don't think Obama is like when he first got elected, he was running for office. He was super popular in the trenches. You go to gas stations, see his shirt and all that other stuff. But now you saw during the election when they wheeled him out to try to get black people to vote, call us a bunch of misogynists and everything, and how he quickly got ran out the paint. So I mean, that's just an example of what I'm getting at. How like people get these bootleg positions and then they kind of turn their back on the rest of the site. Like Charles
But I guess it does.
Exactly.
I guess I was saying it more so that it seems like, and I guess this will lead to the next question. It seems like even you being from the suburbs, you're identifying this concept that there is a suburban elite, black that has different opinions than whether you say like let's just say the hood blacks or the average black, the regular black, whatever words you want to say. So I'm gonna lead this to ask this question. I think that typically when people drop the conversation of like, oh, you from the hood, you don't know much about this, that, and the third, or you're from the suburbs, you shouldn't have too much of an opinion about this, that, and the third. It hints at a bit of classism. So I ask y'all, is there classism in the black community?
Yes,
Hell
but,
yeah.
hell yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Because like I think like what Trey was saying, I think there is a difference between like regular suburban blacks, hood blacks, and then there is a level now, especially with like how well black people have been doing over the last
elite
couple
level
generation, upper class of blacks, and I think sometimes the suburban guys get lumped in to that elite class, and people are sometimes people from the hood, they glorify the life that the suburban kids had and make us seem like we were richer than we had, and make it seem like it wasn't necessarily just a regular life. And I think
when you got that driveway in the garage, it's different. I'm saying
it's really not that different.
Nah, bro. If you grew up with that driveway in the garage, you living different, bro. That's all I'm telling you.
you black. Rich,
I mean, it's a driveway, but the experience is the same though. Like and because I got a driveway, bro. But
driveway in a garage? Oh, homie.
Yeah, I think that's. Go ahead.
Here's the thing: if you got a driveway and you just middle class, there's also going to be parts of your family that aren't that are still in the hood. Sure. You're going to also have cousins. Sure. You're going to like to act like motherfuckers don't know what's going on when there's still a big part of my family, the majority of my family that still lives like that. And so I think I think that's where the kind of the resentment builds when people are talking about that.
But I think he was just speaking about like if you have that driveway in the garage, your experience would be different.
But like when the advice I would give to like some of my family that's still there, I can give to other people in the hood, and it's not from not having the experience, because the advice would be out of love, or the opinion to be out of love, and not out of ignorance, because you can really know. But just because somebody has a driveway in the garage, don't mean.
I don't think we've gotten to the idea of advice yet. That was kind of like the teaser a bit when it came down to the first part. But right now we're talking more so about classism in the black community, and if that exists or not.
But even the classism, like that middle class, is going to have a lot closer relationship with the.
I will agree with that. They're going to be closer to the hood than the elites.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's not the truth.
But you wouldn't say it's the same experience. I think that's what you were saying for a quick second.
No, I wasn't conflating the two, but I was saying there is a knowledge, and it's not like a totally ignorant thing like it would be from an elite level, the super upper class. That's all I was saying.
You don't have old money. You don't have like wealth. Like when I had a neighborhood with a driveway, but all my white friends had pools, and then their mamas didn't work, and they had all the toys and the video games first. And I was, I was a black kid. I was a black.
Nigga, we all had to congregate at one nigga house with the game. Fuck first, second, or third. Only one nigga in the neighborhood had the game. Everybody had
a different experience, but yeah.
Living a life.
But I painted fences and shit until I had enough money.
There y'all go, bro.
I ain't gonna lie. If you like, it's different when your complaint is that we didn't have a pool.
We have a swimming pool. That's kind of wild.
But I'm saying,
it wasn't a complaint, bro. Y'all gotta chill, bro.
It's not. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's the difference. My bad.
I think it's weird.
That's what you had pointed out. Because
usually in the situation, you would say the the classes higher would have like a resentment between the to the other class, but I think in the black community, it's the opposite. It seems like if a person's from the trenches, there's like a hostility that they direct towards people that aren't from the trenches. And that,
well, I think
I
when
think
you
I
said
did
that,
a lot
that's
of that on the show.
I think that's
actually.
regardless of race. That's
yeah,
just
I'm
people
about to
from
say,
the
I think
trenches,
that that's
period.
kind of like every
White
like
trash. Look
the
at white
people in
rich
the
people.
favelas don't like the elite of their country. The people inside, you know, the shanty towns don't like the elites of their country. The people in the hoods don't like the elites of their group. The people inside trailer parks don't like the elites of their like.
So are you
I
elite
think
now?
that people that lack resources don't like people that have resources in
Are
general.
you elite? Are you elite, Q?
Nah, I wouldn't say that I'm elite.
Because my parents both have professional jobs, and you have a professional job. I think your lady probably has a professional job. When I heard you mention about it, so
Yeah.
if I was elite, that means you're elite too.
I don't think he.
I wasn't using.
I mean, if whatever I
you
am,
made it.
you
You
are
made a
too.
point about people inside, like I guess you said like the downtrodden. I don't remember the exact word that you use. Having resentment for people that are in the suburbs or the elite or the people that have more. I was just pointing out that that's a natural disdain that happens across the board.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. But I'm saying whatever you're saying that I had growing up, you are there now. And would you say that your kids? I don't want to get too personal, but would you say that your kids are as privileged as you make it to seem that I was?
Oh,
I was?
listen. Well, my like I proud like my son and my daughter's going to be way more privileged than I was, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with it. Like I don't. We haven't got further enough into the conversation to kind of like unpack our different perspectives outside of right now. We're just identifying differences. But I personally like my son is going to have different opportunities than I did growing up, and he has way more privilege. He's way more spoiled. And same difference is going to be for my daughter, and I don't look and feel bad about it either. I don't have an issue with that. And again, his experience also is different from that kid. They go to a school also that live in Hidden Valley, and like you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference, and that's okay too. There is definitely a difference between his experience in the household than some of his kids at his school, or even some of his teammates. Like, I'd be crazy to identify differently. And then I'd be crazy to be ashamed of that.
Of course you would. But what I'm trying to point out is we have a hostility towards, like, from the trenches. Like, sometimes, like, even on here, like, when you call me a silver spoon activist, like, I don't know, like,
do you understand what
I'm just I'm knowledgeable about these topics, and it's like you undermine my credibility by saying I had a silver spoon when I didn't grow up like rich. Both of my parents had to work. You know what I mean? I have student loans. They didn't like pay for it. Even though they told me I had to get, if I didn't get the scholarship, they went. I had to pay.
But the concept of silver spoon activists is different than, like, because there's mad people that are that give back to the community that came from the suburbs, that came from like wherever. It's the idea of not impacting the community outside of a dollar. So it's like limousine liberals. It's like if your only activism is through what money you gave and not actually what you did in person, the impact that you made in that community. That's what like silver spoon activism is. It's like is being a limousine liberal. It's good to throw money at an issue that you don't really care about and doesn't impact you, as long as you have it. And I'm sure, I think that like it's not speaking specifically to the fact that people from the suburbs, like there's a bunch of revolutionaries inside the 60s that didn't come from the hood. Like you can do amazing work and not come from the hood.
Don't you think
and touch the ground and actually hit the community? And
don't you think a lot of your activism just comes from being an active father?
My activism, I wouldn't specifically say that, but that is a part of my activism for sure.
Because I think if I had a son, I would probably be active in him and help people in his peer group too.
Right,
like
but before my son was like in high school, like I still mentored kids. Like I still worked as a teacher. I still and none of these people are like anywhere near his age. Like I've worked with middle school, high school, inside mentorship. I've worked with college, whatchamacallit, like Segway programs. That wouldn't be anything dealing with my son. He might have been like 2 years old at that point, 3 years old at a point, 7 years old. I wouldn't say my personal. I imagine some people's activism does deal with that because of if they're kids in the community, it entrenches them more in the community.
Word. I want to chime in on the classism. Yeah. Because I think Durham is a good example. For those of you who don't know, like Durham, North Carolina has a Black Wall Street that is pretty well known. But if you're not familiar, you should check it out. If you just Google Black Wall Street Durham. But I mention that because in Durham, it is, I don't want to say predominantly Black, but it is well known to have a significant Black population in the city. It's just like always been a thing. And the thing about the Black class in Durham is that there is like this elite class that helped establish Black Wall Street that's owned a lot of real estate in the city. And they've had these, even like the big Black sort of political pack in Durham, the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People. Like,
what high school do they feed into? In Durham? Is that like Northern?
Who?
The people that you're talking about, like, where are they primarily grouped at?
The elites.
Yeah.
Honestly, they probably go to Durham Academy. If I'm being 100 with you, they probably not in public school most of the time. The elites, like, and if they were at one of the public schools, it's Riverside or Jordan, most likely.
Well, yeah, Riverside probably would make more sense.
It would be Riverside or Jordan, most likely. But these families, like the Spaldings, the Moores, Merrick, like all of these families, they own like Mechanics and Farmers Bank, for example, which is a Black-owned bank, national bank. Like these folks are in a different class than like the working class Black people of Durham, and those who have been in Durham generationally can speak to how there's always been a divide between what's considered like a elite class, bourgeoisie class of Durham who influenced the political scene and all that good stuff and influenced all the investments versus those who were like working in the tobacco factories and shit like that and were just farmers. So it's definitely like super classist and colorist at the same time. It's like they almost go hand in hand in the Black community. Like it's not only classist, it's also very colorist at the same time.
They still have colorism in Durham?
I'm not saying they still have it, like as if like, but you can see like you see fair skinned people in certain positions that they've been there for a long time.
Also, like more like, because I know in like our grandparents' generation, even a lot of these sororities and fraternities, they have like paper bag tests and all kind of crazy stuff like that. But I don't really, the most colorism I see these days is some dudes. I'm not gonna point any fingers or anything like that. Talking about they like light skinned women and stuff like that. But I hear that from both genders though. I don't really hear nobody like being denied. I don't hear nobody being denied opportunity.
Yo,
I wonder who that shot was for.
I'm confused.
I didn't say anybody specific for a reason. I wouldn't do nobody dirty like that.
Johnny, you like dark skinned girls, don't you?
Oh, of course, absolutely. Hell
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How you talking about some high school shit, bro? God, man, told this nigga that in 11th grade.
A Black, talk to us. Is classism? Is there classism in the Black community? I've seen you from being around the Betty Ford's Blacks to the art museum Blacks. I feel like you have a decent feel for the different classes in Charlotte. Talk to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely classism. Charlotte, the Black community. I mean, the Black community just replicates the white community, and you know they the masters of classism. And so I don't really fully agree with Trey as far as the lower classmen or the people in the trenches being resentful to those in the suburbs and stuff. I feel like, at least in the Black community, which I'll speak on, you know, they want to be rich. They're inspired by it, and it's only a resentment when it's like they're looked down upon, or when they're disrespected, or when they're dehumanized. But for the most part, in our community, people in the trenches are sitting around like, how can I get rich? How can I be like this? It's when they go to their service job, or when they driving a bus, or when they work in some regular place, and somebody with more money that's their color looks down on them or treats them like the help. I see more of that in the classism. It's like, oh, they ghetto, or they poor, they low class and stuff. Like, I don't see people like hating
I
somebody.
get afraid around hood people.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, most of the hood, they looking at stuff aspiring to be that way. They only become resentful when somebody disrespects them or treats them a certain kind of way, or brags, or is ungrateful for what they have. Then they're resentful and stuff. But I see more inspiration and stuff.
I don't know, because sometimes the jokes, I don't know. I feel like it's
Do you think that? Go ahead.
No, what you gonna ask?
Oh, I was gonna say, I think that like the jokes for the group that you're within might be different, but like I know my high school, we had a group of guys that called themselves the Black Snobs, and they was like the most entitled blacks that you can find.
They call themselves that?
Yeah, that was like their group clique, and they looked down on niggas.
That
was their thing, right?
No, that is hilarious.
Were they straight?
Huh? Yeah, they
they
was straight. Matter of fact, Jeremy and Tony, we all went to the same high school.
They had a brand early.
Hold on,
yeah,
yeah,
they was the Black Snobs. You said what?
Rich?
I don't. They had more than most of the niggas at Fillable Berry.
Okay.
I don't know like how rich they were, but they had all the Billionaire Boys Club. They weren't hurting for money during the time period that all of us was just wearing white tees and forces.
But they weren't rich though. Like I think that's now I can understand.
But what I'm saying is that they had their own entitlement and jokes in way that they talked down to black people. They had their version of the suburban jokes and shit like that.
And so I understand why y'all.
And you still see that
shit
because
like that didn't happen in Rock Hill. That's not like a suburban. We never had like a Black Snob group. Like
did y'all ever were y'all ever entitled and or look down on people?
No.
But like
Sunday.
Out of 10 kids, how many were black at y'all schools?
Oh, chill.
I'm asking.
You guys on tape talking about it, Johnny.
1 out of 10, 2 out of 10.
I wasn't talking about me. I was just talking about in general.
At a Rock Hill school.
John school had more than John school had more than mine. Yeah.
But hold on. What Quint fucking with me.
No, John, your school was like 40 to 50% black, wasn't it?
Yeah. My school was way more black. Like my school.
And mine was like
5%.
upper 30s. My classes now, I only had one black person in my class like the whole time I was there, like maybe one or two. But I was in all honors classes though. And I had a couple one black guy. There were a couple black females that were in my class. Except
why you
like
make that statement that you was in only honors classes? What
does
that do with black people?
Because the honors classes, the honors classes there weren't black people in the honors classes.
Gotcha.
I'm not. It's not a dig at nobody. That was just my experience, and I think.
But was it just in your honors classes, or are you saying like in your class in general? It was only.
Oh no. Like in my homeroom, it would be like then at 50-50, and in like my electives, those were more mixed. But in like my English, my math, and classes like that, like band, I played instruments and everything. That was more mixed. But in my like class where I actually had to study and focus and all that, there was like one guy, Garrett, and Chuck, and they're still. I'm still cool with like Chuck to this day, but he was the only person in my class. But I was kind of envious of another school in town, South Point, because their IB and AP classes were pretty much like 50-50. Mm-hmm. And it was like, dang, that must have been nice to have other black people.
South Point got a class with you. My bad.
You talking about Rock Hill High, not South Point.
I'm talking about South Point, but Rock Hill was something like that too. Rock Hill High.
Okay, because I ain't really know how South Point was, because I was a little bit. You know, but,
Yeah, now South Point got a prospect out there. I think he's like a 4-star, little hooper kid.
always, you know, always,
I don't know a lot of. I'm just now learning about
always.
like I knew y'all for football,
That's
but
what I'm saying. Always.
but
But
I was finna,
go ahead, Johnny. If you want to land, then I'll go to the next question. Oh yeah, A Black, you already answered, but go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say like what you said that they kind of brought me about the black snobs. I understand where there might be a built-in resentment, but I think a lot of times, especially like, and I guess like when Trey be talking, uh, so we've always had the accountability versus empathy thing, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of time when like it's somebody that might not necessarily be from the trenches when they get on that accountability piece, if somebody wants to, I feel like it's easy to say, no, you can't, talk about accountability when, especially if somebody really knows and they got, like I said, I got family and stuff. So it's not necessarily, they're not always ignorant of the accountability that needs to take place in some of these communities to make them better. And I think, having somebody, that might have come from a family situation that's not necessarily present in a lot of people might actually be good for the community to hear. And I think a lot of the resentment, it can kind of hurt progress a lot of time, and especially if people have good opinions and stuff that'll work. I don't think it should always be invalidated just because
Yeah, and
just
again,
straight up.
I think you jumping a little ahead than where we're at. I don't disagree with your take though.
Man, can I ask y'all something real quick? It does seem like I have more of an explanation. I'm always, when I hear people talk about black on black crime and accountability and all that stuff, I'm always talking about how it's associated with poverty and how we got here, and then like how like reparations is what's needed because otherwise all this stuff is by design. But it seems like people who are more for the trenches are more telling me, nah, they just I see them around me, they're not really doing what they need to be doing. So I think that's kind of like interesting for me not being in there, and I have more of a empathy versus people that I guess they make their way out of it and they have less empathy for the people that didn't do what they needed to do to get out of it. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I
I always thought
understand.
that was interesting.
I understand what you're saying. And I guess I'll try and answer it. And I'll try to answer it through a bit of anecdote. And I personal anecdote. Where I don't even think that what you're saying is invalid. As much as I think that this goes to the idea of like the experiences and when you humanize. So the easiest example that I always try and give is that like shit. Like I grew up, Double Oaks, Greenville, Fairview Homes, Kenny Street. Like if you know that area during that time, like it was what it was. And in that, like I was the atypical kid inside the neighborhood, but my brother was doing all the other shit in the neighborhood. But with that, we all was at the basketball courts. So we all knew each other, and so I also was able to see him and his friends go a certain path, and me watch that as the younger brother and understand that. And in doing that, like and then just growing up with him, being adults with him, talking to him, there's a space where you can't only put it on ignorance, especially if you grew up there, understood it, and seen people make specific choices. Where like me and my brother grew up in the same household, he made separate choices that landed him doing time, simply put, right? But we grew up in the exact same household. He's not ignorant. My brother read more than me. And there's a space where, like on the personal level, when you're on the ground, you see the intentional choices that some people are making, even though they're being guided not to, even though they have the information they're being told. But again, when you look at it from like, and this is like psychology versus sociology, from like a zoomed out perspective, there is pressures that is pushing him to do certain things. Where like, and we can describe and go down the line. So like, if you look at it from like a more systemic space, yes, there is, as you said, the fight for resources, and we know what that does in general for Black people and any other people. But America's been designed specifically to have Black people fighting for resources in a very specific manner. But I don't think that either one of those opinions are super invalid. Like I humanize, and I think that like most of the smartest niggas I know are in the hood. And like you sit and talk to them, these niggas know more about geopolitical shit than the average person. But then there's also this space where I can also say a lot of these people don't have great financial literacy. They don't have a bigger worldview outside of like these, 5 blocks that I've been to. I know niggas that have not left Charlotte. That was 18, 19 years old. So yeah, that's the best way I can answer to you. Hopefully that made sense.
It does. I don't want to, but the only thing I would say, like, even though y'all were in the same household, you don't think the proximity to a lot of the temptation to do those things might have played a factor too?
Of course, but again, that's where a conscious decision and choice happens.
I see, but I guess I'm from the perspective like, why are they in a situation where they have to be subjected to have to make that decision? Where a lot of people, they aren't.
Right, and that's the systemic space, and like I would never argue that there's not systemic pressures that push that. But I also would not make a argument that he was dumb and he didn't know any better, and he didn't have proper guidance, and he wasn't smart enough to make better decisions, and that some of this was off the choice of like glorifying the wrong things at the wrong moment.
I got you. This kind of gets back to the whole thing where I see, I'm looking at the thing of like a victim of white supremacy type of deal, and you look at it more like you have more self determination than I'm really willing to concede.
Gotcha. But yeah, like I said, I think that
Fair way to put it.
there's a point to be made on both sides. I don't really disagree with either. But leading that to ask y'all, a lot of times, I guess, when you hear people speak about Black, there is often a correlation to being authentically Black with your proximity to poverty, struggle, doing hood shit, crime, XYZ. Let me ask y'all, what is the real Black experience?
I mean, I think it's just the skin that you born in, bro. Like I don't think any of them real or fake. I think we all real Black people. So I mean, until we can get past that, I think
and I say that,
really
and I guess I'll speak to you, Johnny. Where a lot of times, so I'll speak to you real quickly, Johnny. So a lot of times, like, we'll just give a hypothetical. Like, you might have an opinion and be like, hey, from the suburbs, that don't matter. But it's only based on the fact that, you know what I mean, the idea of having an authentic Black opinion at times is correlated to being from a specific space or going through a specific struggle or versions of a struggle. You agree, disagree?
Nah, because like I think, like I mean, like you say, that's what the culture is gonna say. That I think that's what people say. I don't agree with that. I think like because like I say, I think there's struggle and there's things you're gonna go through on this side as well. Like with even like fitting in with you're not Black enough in certain spaces, but then you're not white enough in other spaces. That's his own Black struggle. That's very real. That's very unique to America, I would say, and that's a real Black experience too. So I think that's I think that's just as real, and I'm always speak up whether people say it's real or not. I don't know.
Gotcha. A Black, talk to us.
What were you saying, Johnny? The struggle, the Black struggle is what's Black.
No, I was saying just like even like in the suburb, or even like if say I'm not from the hood, to say that my experience isn't like a Black experience. I think there has to be validity in it because there's spaces where you don't fit in with anybody, and I think that's a Black struggle that doesn't get represented enough. That's very real.
Yeah, I mean, Black itself, I mean, the term, the cultural framework is an American experience that only people of African descent can really like. It's really unique to them, and it's like shaped all this whole American thing that we grew up in through slavery, through Jim Crow, through segregation, through all our innovations, and that's what Black is: innovation, creativity, originality. Um, but it's a uniquely American experience for the most part, being Black. So yeah, I mean, we can talk all day about what being Black is, but I think that's the main thing.
GthaKing.
Uh, if I could say what the Black experience is in the most simplified form, I would say that the Black experience is when you realize that you don't have the same opportunities as white folks. That's the Black experience to me. Like ultimately, like it all roots from like that reality. Some people realize it like at a young age, like, wait, something is happening to me unfairly, and I think it's because of how I look. Sometimes it happens to folks as adults, but I feel like once that happens to you, and it's one of those things that as a Black person, you kind of just inherently feel it. You feel like I just got discriminated against because I was Black. Nothing else makes sense here. I know it's happened to me a handful of times, but most times with the law, frankly, if I'm being honest, is when I really felt the Black experience. But realizing that I'm not going to get treated the same as what I think other people's will get treated because of my skin, to me is a simplified version of the Black experience.
Got it. Trey, talk to us.
And this is why I guess I hate the generic term Black, and I prefer to go by our ethnicity, which is descendant of freedmen, for lack of another term. Is more divisive. And I say because like within global Blackness, there are unique experiences that are regional, and go back to your lineage and everything like that. So is Black a culture or a race? But if it's a culture, that means we have to have our own like shared customs and behaviors and values and beliefs. So I mean, I guess so the Black experience has got to be like resistance to white supremacy, because I think that's really what we have been focused on. We've been beating that drum since we've been in bondage, since we first made contact, and then also our innovations. That's the Black experience, and our traditions as far as what we do on holidays, our heroes that we represent, especially like today on the MLK's birthday. I think part of the Black experience is honoring him. And I think that's why do people like Kamala Harris look at MLK the same way that we look at MLK? And I think people would say like that's not the Black experience if her rhetoric is not aligned with a lot of the stuff that we rally around. If you look at Malcolm X the way that we look at Malcolm X, I think that's part of the Black experience is doing that. I think we
what makes you think that she doesn't, I guess?
Usually when people have a someone like that they admire and they look up to, like a hero like that, they speak about them, they evoke their memory, they talk about their accomplishments. It just seems like they try to carry on the legacy. I think that's part of being Black.
Okay.
Like I don't know if like part of the Black experience is like what like Hinduism and like growing up eating like barami chicken and all that. Like I don't know if that's the black experience. I think that's the Indian experience. I'm not trying to joke enough. I dead serious. I think the food that we eat, that's part of the black experience. Like if you grew up your whole life and you've never had like like the greens and the black eyed peas, like black eyed peas and greens on New Year's, if you've never done that, then that's not part of the black experience. If you don't know certain things that we say in church,
Do the whites do that? Wait, do we know that the whites don't eat that?
I've never heard them mention that. Maybe they do.
I thought down south, like a lot of people ate that on New Year's. I could be wrong.
I guess my only thing is that I just
people that eat greens.
What?
I just don't want to derail into like a.
That's a wild take, Johnny. That's a
wild
take.
Hey, listen. Go ahead.
I've never seen them eat them with my own eyes, and I've seen a lot of
oh my gosh, y'all niggas are hilarious. Oh, that is hilarious.
What'd you say?
Y'all ain't never seen a white person eat like no kind of greens. You saying collard?
I'm talking about collard.
I mean, at a soul food restaurant,
collard greens specifically.
Yeah, and collard greens.
They ain't cooking them.
Yeah, I seen them at line at Nana's before.
They ain't cooking them.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I don't know if it's important for us to get into a if Kamala is black conversation anymore.
I mean, she was just an example of like, is her experience the black experience? We were talking about.
I think she's had a black experience clearly. Like she, but it's no reason to dive into this conversation. That's bait. I'm gonna not take the bait. But I guess given what y'all have said and how y'all have explained it, why do we point to it to mean? I'm talking about the black experience when we invalidate a person's opinion from being valid because of said you're from the suburbs or you from XYZ. Why do we point to it to mean the struggle? And is it because of almost what A Black talked to, Jim Crow, slavery, redlining, profiling? Like you can kind of go down the line. Or why would you say that is something that we push as a measurement of validity, of validation, should I say?
I mean, I think it's a lack of accountability. I don't know. I don't want to say lack of accountability, but like, if there's people that have like gotten to the other side and they're trying to share their experience, and I think you don't want to. I think a lot of people are comfortable where they're at, and to invalidate somebody else's experience, it helps validate your own experience. They got to the other side and they're saying, "This is what I did. It wasn't the white man. I made my own decisions. It wasn't racism. I was my own man. It was my merit." And they're using that, and you're still where you're at. It's easy to invalidate that and say, "Well, that's not black. You're not like us. You're not like this," and it keeps you comfortable where you at. So I think it's part of that. I don't know if that's the only reason. You spoke to something that's probably another reason to it, about the ones of us that the black elites that look down. There's going to naturally be a resentment, but most of us aren't the black elites, and a lot of us are just trying to help, the cause, trying to help all black people, and a lot of accountability is needed in our communities.
Okay, Trey.
Caught a miss.
Excuse me. Could you? My fault. You could repeat the question again.
So I said, given how y'all defined it, why do culturally it tend to get pointed at to mean the struggle? Is that because of the history of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, profiling, XYZ, or is there another reason for that?
I mean, yeah. Our existence in America is a struggle. Like everything we've gotten came from struggle. I think the struggle is a part of Black culture because even we're not there yet, so we should still be struggling to get there. Like right now, we're, I mean, for lack of other words, like struggling with the reparations movement. Like, you know, once we get that, you know, like the whole like we shall overcome. That's a song of struggle. A lot of the songs in church we talk about, those are, you know, a lot of our inventions came from innovation out of, you know, struggle. So I think that's a part of our a part of our existence, and we should keep struggling until we get where we need to be.
Gotcha. A Black. So again, I ask you the same thing. Why do we point to it to mean the struggle when we're kind of validating opinions? You muted.
A lot of people feel like, you know, struggle makes you Black, makes you real, makes you hood. So it's almost been romanticized in our culture a little bit to an extent. But it's not a prerequisite to be Black or to be great at Black. It was a dope interview with Miles Davis and a white reporter. He asked him about, you know, why Black jazz musicians play better than white jazz musicians, and is it because of the Black struggle? And, you know, Miles Davis responded, I had a rich daddy and a good looking mama. I never struggled in my life. And, you know, if you know Miles Davis, you know, he went to Juilliard, like he didn't grow up he didn't grow up in the hood, like, so his whole thing was like, you know, so we just like this naturally, like, and it's not always because of struggle or pain, you know, you just Black and you just great sometimes. So I think some people push through, persevere, and it makes them have a great story. But I don't think it's like, you know, you got to be from the trenches or the hardest thing to be real, you know, or because some people from there and they the fakest people or the snakiest people you'll ever meet, and vice versa, you know. So Blackness, it's not monolithic. That's really what it comes to, you know. It's unique, but it's also not monolithic. We just have commonly shared, you know, values and experiences that connect us, but all still in different ways, you know.
Gotcha.
So
G, land the plane.
Yeah, like I agree a lot with what A Black just said, but let's say if we using Miles Davis as the same example, I think one of the common things about the Black experience is that struggle against white supremacy. And no matter how elite you are at your craft, like a Miles Davis, he still had to struggle with white supremacy on his way up and going through the ranks and doing what he did as one of the most influential artists to ever touch American soil. So I think for Black people, especially here, is the context we're talking about. American Blacks specifically, I'm not saying, like you said, that you have to struggle, quote unquote, to be Black, and that's just inherent, but I think all Black people can relate to what it's like to struggle against white supremacy. I think that's kind of the thing that ties it together and why we associate it with struggle, because that's the struggle that we've yet to really overcome.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think in Miles' case, like, he just didn't want to give white supremacy that power of saying that you create our greatness, you know, through pain, through oppression or whatnot. Although it happens, I think in that context, he was just saying like, nah, I'm great because I'm great, and it's not through the struggle and the pain of white supremacy that I've overcome. Like, I'm not going to give you that power that you created this, basically.
I would, but see, the thing about that, like, even though he said that, the time period in which he was in Juilliard and how he got to Juilliard, I don't know the ins and outs, but just looking at the times, he felt like white supremacy, and I'm sure he also felt like he had to be the best of the best to like continue to take advantage of the opportunities that he had. Like he couldn't afford to be average or like his peers. He really had to stand out from the crowd to get those opportunities, in my opinion, given the time period. So like I feel what he's saying. Like I'm not suggesting that that he's not naturally gifted, but I'm willing to bet that his experience growing up, going to Juilliard and maneuvering through the music industry, I would be surprised if he were to say that like his experience with racism or white supremacy didn't impact like his approach to greatness. I would think that it had to have some kind of impact.
He was born in the 20s. I mean, all the lynchings and everything going on.
I would just imagine that that inherent time period and his place and his level of skill, you know, if Ray Charles dealt with it, I'm pretty sure Miles Davis dealt with it, same way James Brown dealt with it. Like, and these were factors that also contributed to their art ultimately.
Yeah, Miles was a little different. It's like, because like everybody dealt with it, but like people you name Ray, different people, they dealt with it from birth. Whereas he kind of grew up in this microcosm of like, you know, wealth that was unknown for Black people at that time and privilege. So he had a different perspective, even when he did come across it. I don't know. You got to watch some docs on Miles Davis. Like that's another show, but like he just had a whole different view of white people and stuff. And he was still unapologetically Black about it and shit. Like, but he really looked at it like he didn't give a fuck about them. He was like, y'all, I'm that dope where I can be the one and not really care about y'all, and I'm gonna fuck y'all women and treat them like shit. Like, like
shout out to Trey.
Yeah.
No, fucking with you.
So you think you can have a certain number of wealth? You think you can have a certain amount of wealth that like insulates you from white supremacy?
Nah, you can grow up in the North in that time with wealth.
He was in Illinois, right?
Yeah, and be insulated. Like you're not like, it's not like Chicago.
East St. Louis at that. East St. Louis is notoriously Negro.
It can insulate you, but insulated don't mean immune. Like you can have insulation with a fire get hot enough. If you go put yourself in enough, you're gonna eventually experience. You might not experience it like, you know, other people.
But you also gotta think like if you're not going against the grain at that time, like most shit be copacetic a lot of time. Like it's only when people are stepping outside of the laws of the time. It's their norm. You know, a lot of times their norm is not viewed as like, oh, I'm dealing with white supremacy. Like this is their normal. You know, so unless they rebel against it, that's when shit get crazy. But
so if you're a good boy and you're in captivity, then I guess you don't have to.
I'm just speaking in the context of the time. Like it wasn't always niggas wasn't always on Django time. Like some people just went. It wasn't even that they was submissive. That's just all they knew. Like everybody didn't have like a natural rebellious. I'm about to be Nat Turner and Freya shit. Like you born into some shit. This is the way. This is how we do stuff. Like bet. Cool.
All right, fellas. So I guess I'll start moving the conversation. I'll ask this question, which kind of hits to the heart of some of the conversations that we be having in the pushback that we give. Should being from the hood give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Hell no.
The way you worded it, kind of makes it a little different because you said for Black people in the struggle.
Yeah.
Say that question again.
All right, so maybe I'll put struggle in both of it, make it easier. Should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle? Being a Black person from the struggle, does that give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Not always. No.
Okay, free a slave that don't know it's a slave. Like everybody don't even know they in the struggle sometimes.
But they're not saying he's not saying somebody currently in the struggle.
Yeah, not somebody that's currently
from the struggle, who came from the struggle. Not saying that they still struggling. Like, like if in my opinion, it is very like it's like a corporation. The C-levels make these decisions that impact the front line, and they are so oftentimes out of touch with what a decision means for the day-to-day of the people who keep things going all the time. And I do think if you have a bunch of people creating policies for a community that they can't really identify with, then there is less likely of a chance that these policies end up, being effective, in my opinion. Like you need you need somebody at that table who can really speak to like the mindset, the just the nature, because it's just a different nature. Like we said, it's a different environment, so it breeds something that's a little bit different. It's more of a scarce mindset. They think differently. They're more how somebody from the hood perceives risk is different than someone who's not. Like things are different. And just because you have a great idea for a program, I feel like it's less likely it's going to be successful if you don't have some people who actually come from the environments you're trying to help. Same thing like with policing. It's like you need police from the areas that they're policing for it to really be super effective versus just taking people and going out and saying, go manage this neighborhood. That's my opinion.
I think that answered kind of, I think a lot of our interactions, I can tell that a lot of times it seems like people that are from the trenches, when people speak on Black issues that aren't from the trenches, there's almost like a hostility towards their views. Like, how do you know? You don't know anything. You know what I mean? So it's almost like what, like some people from the trenches, I don't even like, I can't even like talk to without there being like, it's almost like a pretension, like you come, like you've earned some stripes because you've been able to come out. So therefore you can't tell me anything because you didn't experience that. So, but I think sometimes in the trenches, you can't really see the forest for the trees. So if you came up and you saw how other people that like I in my neighborhood, I realized that these people didn't work so much harder than the Black people that I know. They had wealth that was generational. So but a lot of times people from the trenches, they think that, oh, well, if I just work hard enough, I can be like these folks. So this goes back
you
to
think that Black people
I don't think that's the thought. I don't think that's the thought in the trenches
at all. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, like the accountability versus empathy, where the empathy I have is like, man, the people in these neighborhoods that they're not good, they don't have as much opportunities. A lot of people, they put accountability from those neighborhoods, put accountability on their peers in that same group, whereas someone who's not from that group and realizes it's not about work, it's about opportunity. I don't see them as any situations that's any fault of their own, especially when I know that the people that
my bad, say that again. You don't see them as like, any situation that's a thought of their own. What do you mean?
I don't see it like any fault of their own. Like I don't see.
You don't see their actions as a thought of their own.
I don't see their condition as any fault of their own, because
not conditions, but what about their actions?
I don't see that as any fault of their own either, because a lot of times in these neighborhoods that aren't that
you don't see how that could come off like dehumanizing.
No,
he said fault, not thought.
Oh, you said fault or thought?
Yeah, fault, FAULT. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. I was hearing a different word. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I see that a lot of these people are set up for the situation, and so it's not like. So I think if you just going back to like how you were saying that the accountability versus empathy situation, all I have is empathy, because I know that the people in the trenches are working, or they're just as smart, they're working just as hard, and the people that are in an elevated position, they didn't do anything to get there on their own. So I can't help but have empathy for the people that didn't have those opportunities versus accountability versus someone from that situation. They'll put way more on accountability. And I think also you need people in these positions that that aren't from the trenches, because a lot of times they're in the positions to to help the people who are in the trenches. So like they would, like, you can't discount.
Well, I guess I'm only speaking about, well, the question evokes the idea of like perspective, not necessarily position, or who should be inside positions of just perspective on what would be best for the Black struggle, what it would actually take to get out of the Black struggle.
And let me just say, like, one of my favorite J. Cole bars. Got shout out Cole here.
I know you had favorite J. Cole bars.
Look, before everything happened, I had Cole at the top of the pyramid. Like,
okay, all right, that's solid.
I did. I really did. And if we go even back further, when the warm up, which I'm about to quote, was out, I was saying that this is better than So Far Gone. Y'all got to get on this. Pause. Like,
this is around when I first met G.
Yeah, this is around.
I forget. What was the name of that? I forget we was working at. We was working at.
We don't need to say that name.
Yeah, we probably
But shout out to anybody who did Upward Bound. 21st Century. We rocking with you. But Cole, one of Cole lines on the warm up, he was like, "How I'm supposed to feel what the president spoke when he ain't never had to struggle, ain't never been broke." And just that simple. And this is when Obama just got elected too. This was not like a popular thing to say, but like that to me is like when you come from a certain class, you understand the mindset of how to influence and inspire and what these people are looking for. And the reality is that it's tough to motivate someone in the trenches if they can't identify with you. You see it in the classrooms, you see it on the streets, you see it all over the place. Like when you're trying to really motivate and influence people from a certain community, if they don't identify with you, they're going to push back. So this is why I say, like, if the goal is to impact the trenches, I agree that you don't need to have only people from the trenches making decisions. You need a diverse group of people giving their thoughts, coming up with the best solution. But what you don't want is a table full of thinkers and nobody at this table can relate to the audience we're trying to serve. Like, that's just the cardinal sin, in my opinion. You need to have some kind of representation there who can really speak to the essence of the audience that you're trying to reach.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Now, hey, great Cole bar too. That's one of my favorite ones.
That's one of the coldest ones.
That's one of the ones. But what I'll say is, like, when it comes to the struggle, I think, I mean, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take people from the struggle, people not from the struggle. It's going to take people from the trenches, the middle class, the Black upper class. It's going to take all of us to pitch in. But one thing you were saying about, like, when it comes to business and like implementing programs, when it comes on like a corporate level, you got executives that come up with the plan. You got the workers that do the plan, but in that middle,
advocate for the managers, Johnny.
In the middle, you got those supervisors and those managers, and that's that middleman. That's that one that, you know, he understands a little bit of both sides. He done seen a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I think that's
how freely you be talking around your managers.
Oh, they probably watching. Hey, shout out my boy Rob. Shout out Neil. Hey, shout the boys out. They know what time it is.
Okay. Oh, you fly with the managers. That's okay. That's why you got that PO.
Hey, if y'all want to throw me a little something, hey, nah, I'm fucking with them. But I think if you from that Black middle class, like, because I think you're not that far removed from the struggle, and you're not that upper elite class where that you've forgotten about it either. And I think that's where a lot of people from that middle class feel the pushback, because it's like, you're not from the struggle, but you're not the elite. And it's the same thing I felt in middle school, where I'm not the suburban white kid, but I'm not the well, you know, I'm not the hood Black kid.
You're the middle child.
I'm the middle child, but
they still hate on you for talking proper, Johnny.
But that perspective gives you, but being placed there gives you a lot of perspective. It allows you to be able to help the trenches and be able to get the information from this side and effectively communicate it back to the trenches. And that's even in my come up. The information that helped me, it didn't come from the trenches. It came from people who wasn't from the trenches and sharing that information from me. I feel like it's my job to take stuff that I've learned from, what I've benefited from and my experiences, and be able to share that with people who haven't been able to experience, and just even open their mind up. So you don't necessarily have to be from the struggle to affect it. You got to relate to it a little bit, and you got to be close. I think you definitely got to. That middleman is very important.
Gotcha.
Yo.
Let me throw the A Black real quick to make sure he's he's awoke over here. A Black is the only one I know that catches Z's in the middle of the conversation and hops right back down. Should be.
I was thinking about something.
Yeah, I was thinking about something. This nigga funny as hell.
No, he was praying.
This nigga was praying, right? He had to get that prayer in. That nigga was
bro.
in deep thought. That nigga was really in call with the thinking, boy.
Oh, no.
What's the question?
Nigga, what's the question?
All right. So should being from the Black struggle give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Say it one more time.
Should being from the Black struggle give you a better perspective on being my bad, I'm saying that bad. Should being from the struggle give you better perspective than on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
I won't say better perspective. I think a needed perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anything that's trying to help, should include somebody that knows what they need, But I don't think just solely that perspective is better. I just think it's necessary.
Gotcha.
Man, hey yo, but when somebody said upward bound, that's an example of that I was trying to think of now. Like when I was at USC, I think everyone that was upward bound, they kind of clicked up and had their own thing going on, to where like there was a hostile energy to the folks that weren't upward bound.
You know why? Because
I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, upward bound. And this is a whole other conversation related to Department of Education, but it's a program that's federally funded through the Department of Ed through a subsidiary called TRIO. And what Upward Bound mandates, if you have one of these grants, is that the population you serve have to typically fit both of these criteria, at minimum one of the two. First, you have to be a first generation college student, meaning neither your mom or dad has a college education. 1. 2, low income by federal standards. So the federal government has a chart to say if you're a two people household, this is low income. If you're 3 people, this is low income. So your household income has to be technically low income, and you have to have you have to be a first generation student. So when you look at the average upward bound kid where both of those boxes are checked, you're typically not pulling from middle class families. A couple sneak in, but most of the times you're looking at underserved populations. Like,
and one that was actually like amazing about that. This is just a quick sidebar. Because I was a counselor. This one I think you was a part of the one when we stayed on Central Campus.
Central,
yeah. And like this was like during the summertime. But the funny thing about it, like these same kids, and trust me, we did have some wild shit with some of the kids too.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go in like all the kids in their room by like 8, and as you a counselor, you just go in and like go room to room, make sure one of the kids ain't doing nothing, they ain't made it to the girls' floor and shit like that. Yep. But then like you start having different conversations with them, and you'll walk in and like they'll be having like conspiracy conversations, they'll have like some black conversations and shit like that, to where like even these kids aren't like that far off the post of what people assume and think that they're to be. And that was something that I thought was fire about like just even experiencing like some of those kids as well. Where these are like 15. It's like what was it? It was like middle school to like 11th,
basically 9th
like
through 12th, basically.
9th
Yeah.
to 12, yeah. To where, yeah. A lot of these kids having a lot of these same conversations, and that's why, like I said, I never put them on any kids.
Man, see, that's the thing. Because I understood that it was needs based. I mean, they let me know a lot of that stuff. I mean, but the thing is, this seemed like there was a hostility, like a chip on their shoulder that was directed towards people that, oh, you're not in this, or you rich, so you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna mess with you. You probably rock with the white folks. So it seemed like that type of energy. I think the divisiveness there is uncalled for. I don't know if it's a jealousy.
I don't know if that, like, honestly, now I'm not trying to be funny, but I do think that is a difference between like a USC and a UNC. If I'm being honest, I don't know if like the South Carolina kind of relationship with stuff. What you're explaining, I have not seen that with upward bound kids who go to school, but also too, a lot of upward bound kids in our programs didn't go to like the flagship universities of the state, like a USC.
Oh, shit, it's one of them kids. Maybe you did an interview with him. Ain't he like a doctor or some shit like that?
Oh yeah. Oh, shout out to the homie George. He's getting his doctorate up in homie George getting his doctorate at Howard. Homie Chris from Edgecombe pursuing his thing in Mississippi. But like these kids, like George went to UNC Wilmington. And then went to Howard for his master's. Like a lot of these kids aren't going to, like, you know, respectfully, USC is the UNC of the state. It's the flagship public school of the state. It's not like you don't get it in school by accident, right? Like you feel what I'm saying? Like you honors, exemplary. It's very selective. They're handpicking who they want to come into these universities. Most upward bound kids aren't going to these types of universities. That's what I'll say.
I'm not really sure how that plays in, though. I'm not sure how that. I'm not really sure where you're getting at as far as like a cost.
I'm saying maybe it's unique. Maybe it's a unique experience because when the upward bound kids go to Central or Winston or UNCG or A&T, I'm speaking from like a North Carolina perspective, even a UNC Charlotte, I don't think it's that type of energy that you're talking about on these campuses personally.
What about USC? I mean, just because it's a flagship school, you think that's
well, you're saying that it's more elite? Like
I know that.
Go ahead.
I know that UNC Chapel Hill, which is right down the road from where I grew up, which I spent most of my time partying in high school, and I've got my wife actually went to that school. Is I always joke about because they want to be this big liberal arts school, but I tell them like, the majority of Trump voters are UNC fans. You see what I'm saying? Like North Carolina as a state represents this, like UNC is not just like this liberal bubble. It brings in everything from the state of North Carolina.
I'd argue Duke, but yeah.
Nah, Duke is very liberal arts. People from the Northeast. North Carolina is homegrown.
I argue Duke, but that's another.
That's a good. That's kind of a good point because I think that's the same pattern that we were seeing in high school. Where my school, you know, there weren't too many people in the honors class. There was like a bigger divide between, you know, the demographics and the classes and everything. Versus if I went to a school that was more, that had a more mixture in those upper level classes, there probably would have been less hostility. Where I did notice some of that in high school too. Like
I view kids at UNC and Duke as privileged just because they at UNC and Duke. Personally, I'm like, I couldn't get in that shit, and that's just because. No, I wasn't even an upward bound. That's my point. Like I wasn't upward bound. I wasn't an honor roll student either. I had sub 3.0 graduating from high school. I wasn't like this scholarly nigga coming out of school. Like I got into one school. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I viewed students at UNC and Duke, I just viewed them as privileged because I know what it takes to get into these schools. You feel what I'm saying? Like you don't get into these schools without being exemplary in high school. Like they're only taking the best of the best.
So you think that's why they had the close-knit type of situation at USC because it was a I guess a semi-difficult school and given the background, there's probably more, you know, eagerness to get that done. But it did seem like a lot of them, like for no reason, they were very cold to where, like, when I was in like nerd camps like that were catered to black people with a lot of these same people, it was way more there was more like a more of a friendliness. I mean, the females were cool, but a lot of the homies, like, it was like,
Yeah,
damn,
and
like, you're rich dude, so I'm not rocking.
But I agree with that. Because it took me a second to even like fuck with privileged black people or people that I perceived as privileged black.
What you perceive as privilege, right?
Yeah. That's the hostility I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I don't discount that has ever existed. But it's because it's something foreign, and these are like, depending on the different versions of your experience, these are people that do represent some version of the bourgeoisie.
But why do you think that is though? Like, why is there that hostility to people that are like semi-privileged?
I don't know if it's hostility, if it's just more so like hesitation, reservation, like cautiousness,
like you don't trust.
He just said it. He conflates like semi-privilege with the bourgeoisie. I think a lot of times you can mistake somebody that's just middle class for the elitist. And I think that's where it is, where you say you don't know. Where
but if you're a kid, them middle class kids is assholes too.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it wasn't even like that, bro.
No,
it was the other way around. The
jokes,
middle class kids were ostracized, bro.
But see, did y'all ever like real talk? Have y'all ever had to wear Payless shoes?
I have. A Payless? Yeah, I used to get a bunch of. Yeah.
You talking about the Spider-Mans? You talking about like when you was in middle school, nigga?
I'm talking about you know.
Yeah, look at this nigga trying to eat this.
You know you getting on a bus and getting flamed because of your shoes, nigga. Like, I'm talking about like real shit where you know, like, damn, I ain't got it. Damn, I'm about to get on the bus and get cooked.
Nigga, I don't wear Jordans today because I couldn't afford Jordans,
and that's why I'm the opposite. That's why I got to get them. I got to get them.
Yeah, that's what trauma do to niggas, right?
That's what trauma do.
You're gonna do one of the other.
Hey, but I mean, there was a time where I did not have cool shoes. I never like
the LA Gears. Shout out to TBI. My shit was
I used to have Gears.
Yeah, same here. Like neither one of us had J's like that in school. I didn't get my first pair as an adult.
And like my mama said, you could get one pair of J's or you can get 2-3 pair of these, and like it would be a choice. It wasn't like I just got all the J's. Like it was some sacrifices to get the J's. We act like it was just you just get the J's for nothing. Nah, it was. You'd have to go cut the yard. It was sacrifices for even the nice shit we had. So just act like we had it just like for free or stuff like that. Yeah, it was never like that. And yeah, like what Trey said, when it came to high school and stuff, it was the hood that had the shit way more than we did. Because
niggas from the hood kept some fresh shoes. I'm not even gonna deny. But I say this as the nigga who wasn't able to get the fresh shoes, as in I'm like, why can't I get X, Y, or Z? And I know I'm about to get cooked. Like,
and this was usually like elementary through middle school and shit like that.
But why hate on us in the middle class when it was some dude from your block that had it too?
Once you got to high school, you started making some shit shake.
Yeah,
at least get the forces. You was gonna find a way to make
job. Yeah, exactly.
You was gonna find a way to make something shake.
And then the Sauconys got hot for a second.
Shout out to my brother and my cousins.
Yeah, I'm getting them at least twice a year. Christmas, birthday, Jordans.
Beginning of the school year.
Man, I'm not trying to hog the topic, but I really want to unpack like this hostility towards semi-privileged kids, like as if they're the bourgeoisie, which the bourgeoisie is responsible for keeping the proletariat down. So as a dude who's just in school, just trying to vibe, like why?
But Trey, so right now, take your adult brain out of it, and like if you're thinking about it from just like the lens of a kid, like you just represent and you come
too, though, man,
for sure. And I'm not all right. So
like, but y'all remind me constantly of my privilege.
Well, we like to joke about it. It's fun. And if you bring up a bad anecdote, we'll
You the
use
only
it for
nigga that don't go through the lunch line. Got your own lunch and shit. Everybody else going through the line. You come with your shit prepackaged. You was that
It's
nigga.
good jokes that
You
jokes
brought you.
is
Did
good.
you? Was you that nigga Trey where your lunch
Johnny
was nice
had the
and packaged and
Lunchables.
everything?
Tell him, Johnny. We know you had the Lunchables.
I forgot my lunch money a couple times. I had to eat a peanut butter sandwich.
It's a couple of times.
Hey,
I was definitely judging nigga who had that lunch every day. I was like, damn, nigga, what do you do?
Trey, watch this. I used to have a pizza Lunchable to make my.
Oh damn, yeah, he's flexing on niggas.
Yeah,
Eating his pepperonis like one at a time.
Y'all rich. Y'all rich for real.
Lunchables was definitely rich kid shit, bro. No question.
That's rich.
But nah,
Go-Gurt. You had the yogurt that'll push out the tail. Like, oh, they got all the snacks, nigga. What?
Hey, watch this. We used
But
to
that's
have
a
name
part
brand
of our
soda.
culture, though.
yeah,
I
but
think that's unique to us, though, man. I think black culture there is the hostility goes. It's almost like a badge of honor and a privilege to come for this, to where you look at the people that if you have an ounce more privilege, then like you get ostracized. Versus other groups, it seems like if you are unprivileged, they look down on you. But in our community, it seems like it's cool. Like
my bad. Say it again. I'm trying to understand this because it's like your second time saying this.
There's almost like a glorification with being with the trenches that comes with black culture that isn't apparent in other groups.
You said that's not apparent?
Like other groups don't glorify, like white people don't glorify rednecks. But we glorify street culture.
Some do though. Some
I mean, not to the same extent where
Jeff Foxworthy, what's the cable guy? Like
not all the country music glorifies
country music. Yeah, like they got a culture. NASCAR.
And what I would say, and we're gonna start bringing up call-ins.
My bad.
But what I would say is that I think that the trailer park still has resentment for the preppy kid. They don't fuck with him either.
True.
But the preppy kid don't fuck with the trailer park either. Whereas I think the semi-privileged black kid, you know what I'm saying? We're not far removed to where, and especially there's a bigger population of us who are not semi-privileged. So the numbers are on the side of the underprivileged. So versus the trailer park and the privilege is kind of a balance. So it's kind of like the ostracization goes towards the privileged kid in the black community, where they're able to click up in their separate classes in the white community. So if you're like a black kid, you have a little bit of privilege, you're in the class and stuff like that. That's not the coolest thing in the world. Versus if you're a white kid, you're kind of preppy. There's a community for you there. Versus at the black dude, you're gonna have to link up with the white dudes just because like they
all right. So are you saying that you had to link up with the white dudes so the black kids?
I had a diverse group of friends. I had a diverse group of friends. Like, well, once I could drive and everything like that, I was around my black friends more. But when I was in my neighborhood, I was with the people in my neighborhood, and I went and when I was at school, with the homies, especially I have a lot of cousins at the school too. So it's just like I knew people from church. But other than that, it's just like there's an ostracization that comes with being in that situation where you're kind of like on an island.
Let me ask you a question though. Did you ever like throw any darts at these niggas?
Man, nah. Like what I'm in
like, did you ever like have your jokes that you might get away with and say that's why you live in a such and such, or you drive to
they were
like
you talking about when they all had
I could imagine before you was FBA trade, what version of a black was you before you was like pro black?
No limit.
I would think I was always pro black.
Like so you was on like you was on timing back in high school and middle school.
Bro,
like you was talking about reparations back then. You was talking about like the like unks and the conscious movements of those times. You was on like the Hidden Colors and you didn't watch Hidden Colors back in 2010 because y'all didn't even know there was a Pan-African film.
You don't think around all those white folks I'm gonna experience some racism, so I'd have to check people constantly, like steal off of people if I hear like words that weren't supposed to be used. Like that's
if they called you nigga.
If they say the word,
white people were calling you nigga in your high school.
They weren't calling me that, but one dude, I had to fight one dude in my elementary school for saying that.
Oh, that's wild.
But I had to check him for saying the lyrics. around me, check them for that. But that's the type of thing you deal with when you a minority among all these white
Right.
folks.
But that's his own thing. But what kind of black person was you around other blacks?
Not like my pops had me up on Malcolm X. I had the autobiography in the house, reading books on how they
Shout
use
out to
the
the
N word.
parents.
Like,
My people had me read
like
that shit.
I knew.
Well, it's not shit.
I knew all about.
Shout out to Alex Taylor.
Yeah, they were big on the history talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like my dad.
But how did you
would
present
never let
yourself
me-
around like them black kids to where they just wasn't fucking with you?
I wouldn't say.
How did they know? Like, oh, nah, that's Trey, the suburban kid.
Nah, but I had like.
You used to
Too much
pop
Hollister.
polo collar.
Hollister.
No, it wasn't like.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
don't
white
get me-
You had them Sperry's on.
Abercrombie. Don't tell me you was on the Abercrombie and Fitches.
Yeah, the
Man,
white girl.
like I had. Did I have a white girlfriend? Nah, all my girlfriends were black. In high school, I didn't have white girlfriends, so I got to college. But all my
Damn,
Yo, Abercrombie had the whites in a chokehold back in that time period, like a chokehold.
Yeah, they did.
yeah, but there were white girls that there was a mixture of. I had a mixture of friends. I had my black friends. I had my white friends. I have black girls. I had white girls.
Ain't gonna lie. There was a point where I switched from Forsters to Sperry's. I was tired of
Oh
like
yeah.
you embraced it.
I had a little Sperry's era
Because-
myself.
because-
I ain't
What
gonna
about the
lie.
rainbows?
Never.
Who you talking about, bro?
Rainbows.
Nah, nah,
Never.
Shit got
you
disrespectful.
Sperry's though. The Sperry's
all right, fellas,
boat shoes was a vibe.
As I start bringing up guests, I'll ask this question. I think that it hints at a bit of what we've been talking about, and yeah, I guess this will be something just to kind of like spark the conversation as we bring up guests. So Vivek Ramaswamy last episode, maybe I think that we might have y'all might have continued arguing inside the after show about this. He talked about American culture and the fact that there was a value issue with American culture. So I'll now silo that into a question about Black culture. Is there a value issue on what we glorify, elevate, when we talk about like our rappers and entertainers, but are we pushing our engineers and our scientists inside these same manners? Is there a value issue within Black culture? Fellas, toss it in the air.
I mean, I think,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. I let it go.
Depends on where you at. Like the example I gave before, where I was the only black kid in the honors class. There might have been a value system, but across town, it was at least 50-50. And then those kids would compete with each other to have the highest grades and all the other stuff. So I think when you have if you're at HBCU, at Howard, there's not a value system there. Like they have their heads on straight. But I think there's a lot of peer pressure that goes into it as well. It's hard to be the only one trying to push and push in that direction. But if you have like a bunch of people around you, then it makes it a little more comfortable. You know what I mean?
I disagree. I think we do have a issue with our values. Even, I mean, you can just look at the culture. You can look where we put our money. You can look at the richest people in our culture and the values that they have.
Who's the richest people? Don't say entertainer athlete, because we got investors that's even richer.
Okay,
That's
but
the
like,
richest people you see, and that's on you.
We don't see them. I'm saying, but like the most famous. Okay, how about this? The most famous people in our culture.
The people that are promoted within the
people
culture,
that
I
are
imagine.
promoted, the people that have the most attention. I'll take money out of it. You might got me there, but the most famous, the people that we promote more, the people that we see that represent our culture in front of white people for the most part, are people that have values that we don't agree with. And I think that is an issue with our value. Now, we can argue about why it is, and of course, we know we're in the white supremacy issue is constantly fucking with our values and trying to do more. But how as it stands right now, we do have an issue with our values.
So you don't think it's just because we excel as entertainers and athletes? Like it's hard.
Well, I think so. So right now we're talking about the culture in itself, not necessarily like just because we excel. Is there like an overglorification for like is the value system for what we glorify off,
Doesn't
especially when we
everybody?
talk about what would lead to
I'm agreeing
over a
with
longer
him.
period of time. Yeah,
I mean, I'm agreeing with Vivek. He said there's a problem with American culture. I agree with that, and I'm mirroring it
agreeing with this.
onto the black
Doesn't
community.
everybody?
It's a,
Doesn't
but
everybody
that means there's a
glorify?
problem with American culture then, like he said originally.
Doesn't everybody
And
in the
right now
world
we're speaking
glorify
specifically
athletes?
about black culture and if there is a value system.
Like,
Not like we do in America, no.
Really? David Beckham's the most famous athlete in the world, and
is he?
It's not an American sport. Is he not? I always hear about him.
I
don't
highly
even watch
doubt
soccer.
he's the most famous athlete in the
I don't-
world.
Maybe
I don't know where
maybe
you
I
get
don't
that
even
from.
maybe
soccer, and I
Messi,
know his name.
maybe Messi. Messi
Okay,
and
where's
Ronaldo
Messi?
right now.
I don't even watch soccer, and I know who these people are.
But people don't watch basketball and know LeBron James. People
Michael
don't watch
Jordan.
people don't watch
You think
tennis
so?
and know Serena Williams. Yeah, like no question. Like, but there was an interview that EYL did on the Breakfast Club recently, which was a pretty good interview, I have to say. But I'll read some of the like stats that they spoke to about culture. They was like, okay, less than 1% of Fortune 500 companies have black CEOs. Only 7% of people in tech are black. And then when you look at the wealth gap, it's as high as it's ever been. And we have 1% less than 1% of venture capital. We have 1% less than one. We don't even have no. So basically, what this nigga's pointing out is that when it comes to our culture, as in black culture, we don't have any real ownership. All of our quote unquote famous billionaires have like 1 to 2. But then you have like other cultures who have their people who have like multi-billion dollars, like, and all they did was like create a business. You know what I'm saying? Like versus when you look at the people who are quote unquote at the top of our pyramids, even if you look at a Robert Johnson, him aside, the richest black people that we always talk about are from entertainment and sports. I don't think that's like undeniable. The Oprahs,
And there's I imagine that we would agree that there's a gravitation to a lot of the quick money things first before gravitation and glorification of those things. I think like the common meme is the fact that what's black. I'm trying to think. I'm trying not to be. There's a common meme that shows the cheerleader from high school and how she dissed the nerd, and she went with the athlete, and then fast forward 18 years later,
that nigga peaked in 11th grade.
Yeah, the nerd is this multi-millionaire XYZ. She got a couple baby daddies, and she's saying like, "Hey, remember me?" I think that the meme is satire, but it speaks to like the general idea of what is glorified inside our culture and what we naturally gravitate towards placing value in specifically. But before we get out, not get out of here, because we starting to pile up inside the back end. We got two people here, right? Oh yeah, that is crazy.
That was a little wild. Yeah,
that was crazy.
Was a little wild.
Damn, Johnny, I might have you beat from last week. That was crazy. Who was that said that was Kofi? No, that was a crazy one. We do have people in the lobby of the show. We got about 3 people in the back. All right. So I do want to throw the question to the people that we have up here right now. So I'll ask y'all this question. Give y'all 2 minutes. Answer as you need. If you want to hop into the question that we're asking right now, that's up to you. But do we need to change how we view black identity? Is it time to get rid of the hood versus suburban beef?
Yes. I'd like to say something. Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think if you're black in America, then it is a black experience. I think Johnny said that. I like the thing that Gerald said about, it is rooted in struggle, whether you have had some type of affluence or whatever. At some point, you're going to run into the struggle portion of being Black in America, right? That is a unique thing about Black people in the America that have been brought to the Americas and that have to live here. So if you're Black and in America, you are having the Black experience. I think we talk about not wanting to be a monolith, but then we make ourselves a monolith all the time. I had to have this conversation. I was very offended. We had this conversation at my Bible study, and my pastor's wife said that her son said to her, "Oh, well, you guys didn't give me the Black experience because I don't know how to play spades or I don't know how to do these things." And her response to him was, "Well, I'm sorry that I wasn't a single mom crack whore." And I
Oh
was like,
damn, she was
Ooh.
whoa,
crazy.
Hey,
yeah,
Oh
wow.
right,
Whoa.
that part, right?
damn.
And I'm like, whoa, like what? And then they
But
went
you
on
said
to
this at the church house
This the
too.
pastor's wife?
yes, and then
Y'all be
the
I ain't know the updated church conversations.
Have
and then
mercy.
the other women because the house that we were at is somewhere
Because you can't
here
play
in Raleigh,
spades.
and they live in this big beautiful house. Her husband is an engineer, and then she went on to say, her son, went found our church because he was tired of being around white people, and he had the same, and now he's at Hampton because he had the same thing. He wanted to have more of a Black experience. So then they're talking about themselves like they are something other. And I'm like, no, like just because, hey, look, just because you guys are educated or live in a big house or middle class or upper middle class, that is a Black experience in America. Like who do you guys think you are? Like the only Black experience is not some hood, ghetto, drug dealing experience. That is, we have to stop that. Like if we don't want,
And I guess,
if
but
we don't want them to say, crap about, then we have to stop saying it about ourselves. It is insanity to me. We have
and
to stop doing
I
it.
understand and I agree with what you're saying. And I guess the question that is begged by what you're saying and to what they're saying also is there more to the Black cultural experience than being Black? That sounds like what like both of those two people are asking.
Trey just want to know where they from.
Oh yeah,
That's crazy to say something crazy like that.
yeah, we ain't about to get into the tradiness, but it sounds like because that's what they're begging. They're begging that question. Do you agree? That if they're saying that they're Black, they grew up in America, but they're missing the Black experience. They relate being Black culturally to a different experience than just being and operating as Black in America.
Yeah, like I said, they're kids because
But the parents
were,
seem like they also related to something different as well. The kids and the adults.
well, I think if we're gonna be honest, right? Like if we're gonna have these honest conversations, I've heard it. I heard some things on the panel that were questionable from some of the gentlemen that I think white supremacy is real, and it's entrapped and enslaved some of our minds, and we buy into it even though we're even subconsciously some of the crap that we say and we think about ourselves as a whole, it comes out in our conversations and the way we respond to one another, right? And the way we separate ourselves in class and education and all those kinds of things. Like we have to be careful, right? So yes, like they think of it as something else too, I suppose. I had to tell them like, no, like you guys are like, nah, like what are you guys? And it wasn't popular. They had to, they, I could tell that it was uncomfortable because I felt like I had to check them. Like, what are you guys talking about? And it's weird. It's weird anyway to me for Black people. I have a problem with Black people that feel like it's better for them to put themselves in positions where there's no other Black people, where they want their kids to be all around white folks and they want to live where there's no, like I tell people that all the time, white people don't ever do that. We're the only ones that think, oh, well, if, it's better, we're moving up like the Jeffersons. And so we want to move out of are areas where there's other people that look like us, because we don't even, if we're gonna be honest, like we don't even really trust ourselves. Like that's crazy to me.
Gotcha. And so it sounds like what you're saying is that like their perspective on what being black is no more than a stereotype and a caricature of poverty and struggle.
Yeah.
And that's what they relate to the actual black experience.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Stay
I've never
on.
experienced
We're gonna move to next panelist, and then we're gonna start bringing up guests. After we bring up everybody, we're gonna continue the conversation. So yeah, just stick around. Kofi, I asked you the question again, and I guess really quickly, Natasha, before we get off, I'll 30 seconds on this answer.
Okay.
I do want to ask you the pretty much the flagship question, which would be, should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for black people in the struggle?
Yeah.
30 seconds.
I think it has, representation matters, and so people you need to be able to be able to, to have some type of understanding of where those people come from. People don't care. They don't care if you don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like where are you coming from? They want to know. They want to know if you know what it is, if you know how it feels, to to have whatever it is, to have struggled, to been without your lights on and have to do your homework by the window, or bugs coming out of your seal. Like I think it matters. There should be a
Gotcha.
diverse group, but you gotta know what struggle looks like, what real struggle looks like, to help somebody come from up out of the mud. You gotta be in the
Gotcha.
mud. You got to been dirty before.
Gotcha. Kofi, talk to us. I ask you the questions. Again, feel free to answer to what you want. Give you about a good 3 minutes of runway. Do we need to change how we view black identity? Is it time to get rid of the hood versus suburban struggle? And at the end, I'd love for you to answer that last question that I asked Natasha. What's going on?
Yeah, what's up? Happy New Year, brothers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Peace to the panel. I understand the questions, but I think the problem we have is that we're splitting each other. I know we're all not a monolith. We have to recognize that, but we also have to. It's going to sound corny. It's going to sound cliche. Our problem, I think Malcolm X says, we're not out. We're not outgunned. We're out organized. And I think that's our problem, because the problems that you're mentioning, all societies have those problems, right? So if you take, so-called Jewish people or other white people, stuff like that, they have those same systemic problems we have, even though our history is different. But one thing, when they did have those problems, they came together. So basically, if you look like
Or the revolution.
it's like Dr. Clark says something, and the whole thing is identity, like what black is, right? Once we have a definition of what that really is, realistically, then we can move forward. So Dr. Clark says black tells you what you look like.
Am I the only one that can't hear Kofi?
Yeah, I can hear him. Can y'all? Everybody else can hear him, right?
I can hear him. Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear him.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So, yeah, Dr. King also, if you saw a speech of Dr. King, he was talking about what blackness is, and us being raised in America, being exposed to media and things like that. He broke down to you what blackness is. It means deceitful. It means sinful. It means all these negative things. And I love that speech by Dr. King, because he had to redefine our image of how we see ourselves. And I found that to be very encouraging. So it's just deprogramming this post-traumatic slave syndrome. So you have people. So when it comes to affluent black people that came from the struggle, and they're at a level of prestige right now. So you have people. I'll use someone like Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier, was in this country. I think he's from Bahamas or whatever. Poor guy, whatever. He came up. He did a lot of things. First black man. I think they get an Academy Award. And you have same thing, Harry Belafonte. Same thing, same guy. He was more of an advocate for civil rights or whatever. But when you look at them, they married white women. So it's like, and speaking to the thumbnail that you have, then you have Steve Urkel there. right? And he's not an activist in any way, sort, shape, or form. But he marries a white woman. But he married up. He married a influential white woman, right? But I'm trying to say Harry Belafonte, even though he fought the good fight, I'm gonna have to put on my Dr. Umar hat and be like, okay, when you die, like same thing with Richard Pryor, when you die, and men always die earlier, all that money is sitting with that white woman. You think she's gonna continue that struggle? No, she's simply not. So you have people like but then you got people like Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper, he's not that high level of a rapper. He's, people know of him, but that's the person that goes back to the neighborhood and gives back to the neighborhood. And that's commendable. So, because we all go through the struggle, right? Some people, they get comfortable. They're at a certain level, they get comfortable. Like Jay-Z, he came from the struggle, all of that, but he got comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that would be an example. And then I forgot the name of this boxer. He opened up a boxing gym right in the neighborhood where he was. He's like, because boxing saved me from the streets, life of crime, all that other stuff, and it was therapeutic. It was a place for me to go. And I think it was Jalen Rose. When we talk about Jays, Jalen Rose. I think it was Jalen Rose. He had some sneakers that he had out. He made it affordable. Okay, Jordans is expensive. Black people are going crazy, spend all this money on Jordans. We should be able to do like that. I'm gonna make something that's just as good, but I'm gonna make it more inexpensive. So to me, I agree with the sister on the panel that we shouldn't be a monolith, but we kind of make ourselves a monolith, and we pretty much have to gravitate towards the people that enrich our lives, that speaks to us more. And I think that's what Johnny was on pretty much saying. But I mean that's pretty much it. The last question, I'm not sure if I answered it.
Well, yeah, I got give you like 30 seconds. Should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Yeah. Well, I guess okay, cool. I think I answered that. Yes, but it's
okay.
You have to know once you're from there, you from the struggle, you have to make a conscious decision. Like, am I gonna go back to my roots? Like, I love Scarface. You know what I'm saying? Way back in the day, Scarface, you know what I'm saying? He didn't move out the hood or whatever. He pretty much bought the block. Like people like Master P and things like that. These are people like, yeah, I'm rich, but I'm gonna give back. I think Master P, I don't know if you guys know, he made like a cereal line. He got like a whole bunch of cereals that he's trying to like promote. You know what I'm saying?
He got chips, oodles and noodles. He got all kind of food, processed food that's giving niggas diabetes.
Oh wow! Damn.
All right, but TBI, stick around. I said TBI, Kofi. Stick around. That's a Freudian slip of That's not disrespectful. I'm bringing my brother up right now,
food, brother.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what you're talking about. But nonetheless, we got I'm gonna bring up our next three panelists. We got another three favorites. We'll start with TBI. TBI, talk to us, brother.
Shout out to the home.
Do you need me to react to the question? You kind of already know what you want to talk about.
No, react to questions.
Okay, it's kind of a three-parter. You can answer it as you feel.
Okay.
Give you 3 minutes of runway. Do we need to change how we view Black identity? Is it time to get rid of the hood versus suburban beef? Okay. And again, the wrap up 30-second question is, should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Now, I think we should kind of rework how we look at what Black is. I think we've been programmed, and we like the Black community has like a lot of propaganda like targeted towards it, as far as like a lot of negative aspects. Like you got the sexy reds and all this stuff, and so we've been programmed to think that that's Black culture, and it's a part of Black culture, but it's not all of what being Black is. Because like we're never marketed like the positive things from our culture, like having like 50,000 patents, all the inventions and movements and things that we created. We only marketed the negative stuff. So I think in turn that has made us think struggle is all that Blackness is, and I think it's way more than that. I think struggle is a part of it, but I think success, achievement, a lot of things have come from Black people. So I think we do have to not always focus on the negative. I think we've been programmed, even though all cultures have negative perspective, we're the only people that have been programmed to only look at the negative and not see all the positive. Um, like even somebody I mentioned in the chat, his name is David Stewart, and he's like the richest black man in America. And I guarantee you, most people don't know who he is, and he's in tech. But they're not gonna market somebody like that. They're gonna market the rappers, the athletes, and things like that. So in turn, that makes us think that's all we are when black people are a wide spectrum and cover a lot of industries outside of sports and entertainment. So
Gotcha. The hood suburban beef. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a little bit of that. But I don't think it's as bad as we think it is. I think it is a little. It could be jealousy or just kind of like being in a tough situation. You're gonna the natural inclination is for you to be upset at the person that's above you, or you think that it's doing better than you are. So I think we do need to squash that and kind of come together and kind of break that down. But I don't think it's as bad as we think it is, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for black people in the struggle?
I don't know. I think being from the struggle is, I think you have a great perspective of what's going on and what the people need, but I don't think that should be like the only, like you have to be from the struggle to be able to help and give assistance and kind of point the people in the right direction. So I don't think it's the only thing, but I think if you are from the struggle or you got out of the struggle, I think it does help your perspective on what needs to happen to bring the people out.
It adds value.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Next up.
Can I speak on one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like the thing about the billionaires, like the reality is that of all of the billionaires, only 2 black billionaires have more than like 10 plus. Like only 2. There's only 2 black people in the United States that have, of all the billionaires, have 10. And then when you look at all the billionaires total who can claim 1 billion, it's like 10. And when you look at those 10, Oprah, Jay-Z, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, that's 4 right there out of 10. That means 40% are sports and entertainment. That's a pretty significant margin when you compare that to the other, say, hundreds of billionaires out there. It's not 40% of them are athletes. They're business folks, investors, all types of other shit. So for our community specifically, as Black Americans, and we start talking about that elite wealth, I'm not sitting here to say we're all one thing, but in terms of our culture and what's represented at the top, statistically speaking, it's like a pretty nice chunk when you talk about damn near 40%, if not even more, because I think Beyonce would make up 5 of the 10 that count as billionaires. So it's just like that's like half of what we have to represent as like elite wealth is in sports and entertainment.
But G, would you say that is systematic though? Because I mean, a lot of that, I mean, of course,
yes, it is.
A lot of that is systematic. I don't think it's like we don't want to go in those directions. A lot of these,
it's not our culture.
Yeah.
But see, that's the issue. Say with Black culture is that a lot of Black culture is systematically forced into our algorithms and our zeitgeist, from Christianity
that's what I was saying.
to the things we value. Like Black culture is such a like mix of just that's what makes it such a crazy experience, because it was shaped here in the States. But I would think it would be like not accurate to say that the things we define as Black culture didn't derive from some of these other elements that we, were oppressed by. Like that's just a part of the equation as Black people. And so I'm not saying that like it's not a systematic reason as to why that's the case. I agree, it's intentional, but I will also say that like that is why it's not healthy. And that's why the culture needs to kind of shift the focus, because most of us think to reach 1 billion, you're going to do it through sports or entertainment versus through something else. That's kind of my general point. And especially when you talk to quote unquote lower than middle class people, their ticket to the next level is athletic or what they
That's
think
typically
their
the first
gift
thing that
is.
they push for.
It's
in
typically the
glorifying.
first thing. It's not education related. It's not business related, investment related, entrepreneurial. It's you got to be the best on your team, or you got to be the nicest with the raps or the singing or whatever the case. That's typically what we push for as a
I
culture.
don't know about that, man. I mean, my family,
I'm
they
talking
didn't
about as
push
a
me.
culture though, not just
They
your
didn't push
family.
me to be a. I'm saying most of the people I know, I don't know that their parents told them to go be rappers and things
Right.
like that. I don't see
I
that.
don't think it's a matter
I
of
don't-
their parent.
or
I don't think it's a
go
matter
try
of
to be
they
the next top running back. I don't know a lot of people that had.
right. But
I knew people
Yeah.
that played on sports teams, but I don't think that's the dominant culture of like, hey, you got to be a rapper, you got to be a singer, you got to be a DJ. Like
To get
I don't
rich,
hear that.
to get rich.
yeah, I'm about to say, hey fellas, because like
Okay.
this is almost going to spin itself off, and we won't get to any more people. In which I think that we'll revisit it, because I think that I understand the point you're making, TB. I imagine that G also would say that that's not necessarily the best representation of like what he was actually saying. But Sess Majid is in the building. Talk to us. You got 3 minutes. I'll ask you the 2 questions. And let me know, what is your thoughts? Do we need to change how we view Black identity? Is it time to get rid of the hood versus suburban beef? And then, of course, the wrap-up question is, should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for Black people in the struggle?
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
All right, peace, everybody. Look, I think we need to, kind of come together with things. Majority of the time with us is that we, you know what I'm saying, we from different areas. Somebody might be from here, somebody might be from there. A lot of times when it comes down to it, it's more or less, a suburban kid might say that the kids from the hood don't like them, and the kid from the hood say that a suburban kid don't like them, but they don't know each other, so they don't really understand each other. So they kind of standoffish, and you kind of always gravitate towards people that are kind of like you. If somebody's kind of off from being with you, you really want to hang out with people that have things and that's similar to your situations, and that's all it is. That they grew up this way, these people grew up that way. But you know what I'm saying, with us needing each other, you know what I'm saying. When it comes down to things, there's nothing wrong with a person coming from an area or you know what I'm saying, wanting to be down with this or that weather, but you need to stay in your lane of expertise. And between everybody can learn something from somebody. But if you're not from the hood, stop talking about things from the hood like you're from there. If you're not from the suburban areas, you don't know what's going on, because you can learn a lot from them because they've been around white people more, so they can tell you the insights on what white people are doing a lot more than, you know what I'm saying. You can learn from somebody. You always can learn something from somebody, and as G said earlier, you know what I'm saying, when he said about, you know what I'm saying, about like work and things like this, it's just like everybody has been, I don't know, has, you know what I'm saying, in management or something like this. And then you have the pie graph man that comes in there. The pie graph man always comes in there, and he comes in there and he wants to tell everybody, oh, y'all can do this, y'all can do that, you can do that, but he never tells you how to do it. But it's always up to somebody how to do it. But he could tell you what he sat behind his computer and how everything's gonna work. That's what happens a lot of times with, you have somebody that comes from the outside in, they don't really know what's going on. They can tell you what looks good, but if you don't have foot on the ground, you can't really say. You can say what could happen if this did happen, but you know what I'm saying, trial and error is with everything. But you can't just come and change or try to make change without, you know what I'm saying, knowing exactly what's going on. Did that make sense? A little bit?
Yeah. No, I understood what you're saying, for sure. I appreciate it. I think that those are valid points. Yeah, you're in agreement that it's important to have a person, like proper representation when you're trying to make change is important.
Yes, just stay in your lane though. Stay in your lane. Don't try to, you know what I'm saying, learn while you're in your lane, trying to learn as you go on. Gradually you can get there, but you're not going to get there thinking you know from what you done heard, read, or whatever, because if you haven't been through it, you can't say what's going to happen with it like that. It's a learning process, but everybody needs everybody. But also I got one more thing to say, real quick, because it's like where you're from, far as, you know what I'm saying, being Black, it depends on, because there's so many different people. People on the West Coast don't act like people from the the East Coast. People up north don't act like people from down south. So it's all different areas from where you at. So us having a culture, it depends on where you live at geographically. You understand what I'm saying? So the culture is there as far as being a black person. You're always gonna have a black experience because you are a black person, but your experience in life is gonna be a little bit differently depending on where you live.
For sure.
That's how I feel.
Appreciate
All
it.
right. Yeah, love y'all.
Love you, Unc.
Love you,
All
Unc.
right. There you go. South Africa's finest. Heard that you got up with A Black over the break. This is a joke. But he was touring your continent. He was out there for about a good month. Kamu, talk to us, brother. Do we need
What
to
up, Camo?
change how we view black identity? Is it time to get rid of the hood versus suburban beef? And yeah, again, the ending question is: should being from the struggle give you better perspective on what's best for black people in the struggle? As much as you can relate this back to South Africa, feel free.
Without a question. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Well, I'm gonna take this back as much as possible. To be quite honest, bro, I don't think we have black culture. I will call it a byproduct of white supremacy. And in that, I'm saying all of us. Because if I were to ask people what's black culture, the first thing I'm gonna hear is athletics, hip hop, Hollywood culture, all of those things, and it's like no, that's no, and it's the same thing that's happening on the continent. We don't really have a culture. We are just a byproduct of colonialism, which is what we are fighting to get rid of. And we have this ridiculous holiday in South Africa. We call it Heritage Day. On that day, we wear like a cultural regalia to go to corporate, to go to work, go to school with our cultural regalia. We only do that for one day. We are in Africa, living on the continent, but we delegate one day to being who we really are. So it's like, this is ridiculous. It can't continue like this. And it's the same thing. I think we should be more focused on building institutions that speak to who we really were before we became a cultural byproduct of white supremacy. And then as far as suburban versus ghetto, I don't think we have that problem over here, because I think I
There
even
is a
think that
classism
people
issue
from the
inside,
ghetto.
but I'm in South Africa. There is a classism within blacks issue, right?
Well,
Colorism.
it's
Yeah, I think that it represents itself inside like
not
colorism, but
really.
I thought y'all had like
No,
different
no, no,
names
no,
for
no.
different black peoples.
You know,
And
you
Colored
know,
niggas.
I think,
You don't have
I
suburbs.
think what you're talking about. What we have. Let me break it down for you. I think you guys are talking about us during apartheid, without question. We had those type of things, but
oh,
post apartheid, it's different. So we have things like an accent privilege. So if I
but
speak a certain
what's the
way,
singer that's from there that was just talking about that? She
And
said
what
that she
about the
don't like black.
colors?
Oh, Tyler.
Make
Yeah,
me
Yeah.
Tyler.
swear.
Don't they have color
Like she was making it
communities?
seem like y'all
Coming?
still had that whole system and all that.
She half Indian though, I think.
But
no.
she was using
That
like the
that
terminology
happened
and shit.
during apartheid. The colours have no. That happened during the colored have morphed into being black, who they really are. Colored
Why
people
was
are
she
black
just
people,
saying she was colored?
so
Like,
they
what
get
Brother,
do
she
you?
just
no.
said that recently. She just said that recently.
She's
Yeah, it was
colored.
like
She just
She
said that
Yeah,
identifies
recently.
she's
as
color. Yeah.
colored. She
She said
identifies as
what?
colored.
Can any one of you tell me what she actually said?
she
She
said
said
that she
I'm
doesn't
She
colored.
just
identify
named.
as black, she's colored.
She said I'm not black, I'm
Yeah,
colored.
I'm not black. I'm
Oh,
colored. And then she named about three
okay,
different names that they call the
And it
different skin tones and stuff like this. Three different things. That's
okay,
classism. That's some
okay,
type of
okay.
racism
Maybe
that goes on over there with y'all.
Oh, okay. Let me okay. Let me help you with that. So what had happened is colored people have morphed into being black, right? They get all the black privileges, but on government papers and institutional reference, we still use the colored term. So we didn't erase it. So in school, when we register or when you go to a bank to get a loan, you write, are you white? Are you Indian? Colored or black? We
What
didn't
is colored
erase
and
the
black?
colored thing. But I mean, it's
Color,
nonsense, honestly. It
It's
really is
color
Combo,
nonsense.
mix.
combo. Correct me if
And
I'm right.
mix.
The colored people would be the mixed people, the white mixed people with the Dutch with the South Africans. Those are the colors, correct?
They Indian too, right?
Yeah, they can mix with Indian.
They
Well,
just
Anybody
predominantly,
not all
majority
fully
of
black.
them.
they just the
Well,
mutts.
look.
Pretty much, G. Pretty
Look,
much.
both my grandparents
Yes,
are.
that's what
Look,
it sounds
listen,
like.
listen. Both my
Come
maternal
on, you look
grandparents
colored,
are
man.
mixed race, but they're not colored. You see, they're not
Hmm.
colored,
No,
bro.
I don't.
Both my
Can
grandparents
you
are mixed
explain that?
race, but they're not colored. So
So
What would they check of the
it's
four?
crazy,
What would
bro.
they check of the four you mentioned? Would they check black, color, white, or Indian?
Or black. Oh, you said black. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Black,
mix. They
black.
would check
It's
black. Oh,
crazy.
okay.
What they miss with
Hmm.
sauce and mama
so
is
You
that
so
see,
colored
how crazy it
colored
is.
people
So
is
and
so so are colored people anybody that have black blood in them, then they become colored. That's how that.
Nah,
Is that? Am I correct?
no,
nah, that ain't it.
So what
no.
makes a
It's
person
not like
colored?
that. So
I'm confused.
colored people
Yeah.
is a people whom their culture was so they don't have any linguistic or cultural reference because during apartheid they only identified as colored, you know.
But
So
you
you
said that
could
y'all
be
like
the
some
darkest.
people are still checking it right now, right? So what makes a person colored
Yeah,
today?
we
Because like she said
didn't
that she was
erase it,
colored,
which
and
I
you're
think
saying
is,
that like when you go and do the census, I'm not sure if that's what y'all call it, that it's still a thing that people are checking. So what makes that person that? Is it lineage based? Is it like a cultural thing? What would make you colored?
I think it's a more of a cultural and it's a byproduct of apartheid. You find the darkest guys, but they are colored. They can't speak any of our languages over here. They speak Afrikaans and colored way of
Oh,
speaking.
so it's not just
So
light skinned people
it's
now.
I thought it was
no
mixed.
no 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 no. No.
Oh,
It's
So it's
okay.
not.
like if you're
I
orphaned
just
from
told
like
you
your
that
original
both
culture,
my
you're
grand.
just colored. Like if
Sorry.
you're
So
orphaned
wait.
from
So
if
you
you're
have
orphaned
someone
from your original
that's
language, like if you don't have any attachment to the
Look.
original culture, that means you're colored. Like if you don't have any, you don't know the language before, you don't know
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Indian.
If you are
It's just like
black,
a
if you are
catch-all
black and
spot
you
for
can't speak
people.
any look, if you are black and you can't
Oh,
speak any of the indigenous languages,
Oh,
chances
okay.
are you are colored.
oh,
but
I'm
combo,
feeling
but
it. I'm
combo.
feeling it.
I
I'm
know.
Okay,
feeling
so
it.
That's
I'm
how it
so
feeling it
is.
now.
Combo.
I'm feeling
color
it.
with
I know there are some
what?
South Africans that are the children, they're the offspring of children. That some of them are originally South Africans, and that one of the parents is Dutch. That
Yeah.
parent, that child, is of Dutch heritage and South African, and they do know both, customs, and they will be considered colored. Am I right or am I wrong?
Dutch with a mix of black or
Yes, with the white people that came there, the Afrikaners. The Afrikaners with the black people
so
there,
so.
they had
Mm,
kids, and those people are considered colored, from my understanding. Am I right or am I wrong?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a huge bulk of the colored community came from multi racist
I
kids,
But
and
almost
but,
thought
but
I
the,
knew what he
the
Right.
meant.
That's what
the,
we're
the
saying.
key there though,
You
the
just
key
changed
there
your
though, the
God
So
key
I
there is
damn.
the
wasn't wrong.
That's what we're
Afrikaans.
saying.
Nah,
Come on.
The key is the Afrikaans piece though,
it's
right?
tough.
Like it's the
So
fact
close.
that they don't
I
speak
mean
the native tongue. They speak the Dutch mix of the language. So if
Afrikaans.
they exactly
Look,
Oh, okay.
Afrikaans is
Okay.
not the native language. That's like the European mix of the language, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I
So
get it. So if
so
they
yeah,
speak
yeah.
Afrikaans,
Then you
and
real black.
then they not necessarily like black.
Mm,
Or do
They are
Oh,
black though.
Damn, that shit confusing.
yeah,
They
I
are
ain't
so
gonna
it's
lie,
black.
a
yeah,
yeah.
I thought
so
it was, I
it's
It's
thought
just
it
that
was
they
just
have a
mixed
different.
people
so
in
it's
South
an Indian.
It's
Africa,
just that
man.
they
So
they,
it's
they, they
so
It sounds like
It's just that,
they,
look, they
Is
are
it
black.
an
It's just
in-house
that they have
racism?
We got to
Good.
unpack
Is
this
it
they
in-house
black
are black.
racism
It's
unpack
just
going
that
on?
This
black.
Or
is
they
what's going on?
multiracial ethnic group in South Africa.
Hey,
Oh,
y'all remember that? Y'all
God.
remember that
look.
pie chart guy that Unc was talking about? We need him to bring that out right now.
That's what we
I
need.
don't
We need the
understand.
pot shot.
They're like
We need
Yeah,
the
we need
pot
the
shot
pie chart
guy.
guy.
they're like Melungeons in North Carolina. You know about the Melungeons? They're like a mix of Aboriginal with the natives with the black and the white.
that like North
Melungeons,
Carolina's
y'all ain't
deep.
never heard of that?
So you speaking like
Yeah.
Lumbies. Like Lumbies. Are
Oh,
you
the
speaking like
Lumbies,
them?
the fake natives. The
Yeah, the Lumbies.
Melungeons,
The Lumbies. He's speaking
Lumbies
of
are
people
like
like
natives.
He
Lumbies.
ain't
That's
say
not
Lumbers.
really natives.
He said
Yeah.
like
Melungeons.
$5 Indian.
I
They
just know that
worse
they
than
claim to be
$5
Native
And,
Americans, but they're not really like
and
indigenous
yo,
Americans.
guys, another important aspect of the colored community is that the Khoisan people make a huge bulk of it. Also, the Khoisan people have lost their language. They speak Afrikaans, so it's crazy.
So they speak in a dialect of their own natural language, is what you're saying.
The white man's version of it.
No. They speak no. They speak a concoction of different dialects, uh, and with an influence of Dutch, Khoisan language, Malay, and all these
Okay, so
different
it's like
cultures.
Swahili. It's
Yeah,
like Kiswahili, where Swahili you have
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
original
yeah.
Swahili
Yeah,
words
without
and
Swahili
some
isn't
without
a
words
real
that are
language.
exactly.
okay.
It's not a real
They,
Yeah,
language.
yeah,
like
yeah, absolutely,
It's
they're
a
like
hodgepodge
Central.
of different languages, like English.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
It's
They
about like
Gotcha.
putting ebonics of English. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. All
Okay.
right, so fellas,
pretty much. Yeah.
and ladies, this has been a good conversation. Pretty much time to wrap it. We've hit that 3-hour mark. But again, big shout out to G, FBA Trey, as always, Johnny, as always. I think this is the second time we've had Natasha up here. Always great input. A regular Kofi, TBI, Unc, and Kamu. These are some of my weekly favorites. Great conversation. With that said, yeah, again, this was interesting and fun unpacking. Just kind of getting to the crevices of some of the riffs that we do sit and have and we poke fun at and or we're jokingly serious with when we get into conversations and when we validate or invalidate opinions. Again, it's almost like room for more conversation and more to be unpacked. But I do think that we at least had some healthy dialogue here where even addressing the idea of there has been some hostility that, you know what I mean, at certain points it is valid or invalid to speak on certain things or where there is value in opinions at from both angles. But with that said, this has been Unpacked, presented to you by the To Be Fair Show and the G-ish podcast. And we out.